Alright. Yeah, it's been a long time since I started fucking recording anything on the podcast since my shadow ban. How you doing today, DJ?
Um, Pretty full. Mentally disabled as always.
Yeah? Your
Yeah,
your Discord picture seems to show that a little bit. It's
I
not
think about.
yeah, it's not what I recommended, but we're good.
I only think about that one because it says. All I think of is the meme British people when you bring up knife statistics.
Yeah. You know,
Oh,
what's weird, I talk to Barron's group of British people every once in a while because he knows some randoms.
yeah.
And they love to talk American politics with me, and they all kind of unanimously, unless they're like socialist, they all unanimously agree that Britain kind of sucks ass, including Barron
Well,
for that matter.
I mean, I don't blame them.
Yeah, and then one of them flipped the fuck out, knowing how close I live to Detroit, because I guess a bunch of British people are into Eminem. So
They are.
yeah, apparently this group of them at least, and he flipped the fuck out, and he's like, "Bro, you live like within a few hundred miles of Eminem," and I'm like, "Well,
No,
kinda." Like if he's in Detroit, I think he
he's
spends a lot of
probably in
time in
Cali.
Los Angeles. Yeah, and he was still freaking out though, and he's like, "You should go see him or something." I'm like, "I'm pretty sure I'd get shot or the police called on me. Plus, I don't really like Eminem all that much anyway."
Eminem would beat your ass himself.
That's
The
what I'm
fuck?
saying. Yeah, he'd pull out some of his fucking Call of Duty merchandise and kill my ass. But
His callouts would be fucking lit.
dude, I know. But there's that, and then they flipped the fuck out when they heard me like fucking load a bullet into the chamber of my Mosin Nagant over the mic one time
Oh,
because none of them have guns,
oh,
so they like couldn't handle that very well.
yeah. That
Barron's in denial about the gun thing too. He's like, if I get like 17 different licenses and get permission from my local police precinct, I can get a firearm.
me just walking up to the fucking gun store like, yes, one gun please.
Basically, as long as you're 18, yes, one AR-15, please. Yeah. Biggest barrier to entry to owning firearms in the United States is, can you afford it? Yes. All right, here you go.
There's a little bit more than that sometimes,
Well,
but
background checks, obviously.
there's the background check, and you have to be 21 for pistols, and then
Yeah.
to carry that pistol around in public places, you need a different license, and
Even in more free states like ours, which let's not get really specific about our state. I think we've said, actually, no, never mind. We've said that we've lived in fucking South Bend on this before. I take it back.
oh,
Like, initially, me and Ryan were like, "Oh, let's only go by our gamer tags so nobody knows who we are." That shit went out the window because I didn't feel like editing every time somebody called somebody by their first name. So I went to the first name rule. And
yeah, there's nothing you can do
yeah,
with first
and
names.
we're like, let's just make sure we don't fucking know what our geography is. And then it slipped that we're in the Midwest. Then it slipped that we were in Indiana. Then it slipped that we live in South Bend. And South Bend's still okay because it's like there's hundreds of thousands of people here. You know what I'm saying? Like,
You just boot up the podcast and it's hello, best friend, first name, last name, address.
yeah, exactly. I remember in the early days, like I said, fucking Ryan's mom's first name or something, like as a joke, and I had to go dig to like fucking remove that shit. But
I almost
yeah,
just said it again.
yeah, yeah. That's one we won't fuck with, even if it is her first name. 'Cause she's
No,
a
no,
grown-ass
no
adult.
parents,
Yeah,
if
no parents.
possible.
Even though Ryan's mom is a fucking meme, no parents. But I'm glad to finally have you on the podcast, man. I'm slowly whittling down the amount of people who haven't been on it yet.
Yeah, you had to hunt me down.
A little bit. You like every once in a while you'd come out of the woodwork because you disappear for short periods of time every once in a while, and you're like, you know, Ashton, I'd really like to be on your podcast. I get all psyched and shit, and I'm like, hell yeah, you would. Let's fucking do it this Saturday. You're like, sure, and then I text you Saturday, and you're gone. There's just no response. The next day, you're like, oh yeah, sorry, I ghosted you. At least you're honest about it. Jesus.
Yeah, get ghosted, idiot.
Yeah.
Oh,
I call you our group's closet philosopher though, a little bit though. You surprised me with it, like, what, a little less than a year ago.
oh, really?
Yeah, I didn't know you liked having deep conversations or getting into any of that kind of stuff at all until we started sharing an Audible account, I think.
I like that stuff. It's just most of the time people don't sit down and talk. They just, hey, this is right, accept it.
Right. And I hate that kind of shit. Looking at you, YouTube. God damn it. But, yeah, and excuse me, I fucking burped. I'm used to being on the Xbox mic where we can just, like, burp and do whatever the fuck we do and not have to worry about it.
Yeah.
That's where I plan on taking the podcast next, by the way. I'm always going to do long-form conversations like this, especially if it's, like, somebody's first episode or, like, fucking I've got a specific subject I want to talk about. But, I want to get a capture card and just start recording some of the crazy conversations we have, like, as a group. And I'm not going to tell people when I record, but I'm going to ask for permission before I upload. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, kind of standard format, like the Do or Grizzy.
Right, but it's less comedy-based, more, like, crazy conversation. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because that's just what I'm known for in our friend group, is the trippy guy who will sit and talk about crazy shit till 3 in the morning. Hence the name of the...
It just randomly happens, too. You can't control it.
Well, I do seem to be able to bring it out pretty easily on, like, these long-form episodes. But the more people there are, the harder that is to do. And it's never quite as organic as it could be. Because everybody knows they're being recorded, so it's... Yeah.
The issue is, like, the more diverse our group is, the harder it is to talk about things without people getting upset, so...
Right. Actually, again, me and Austin have some of the best conversations, similar to how me and you do, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Austin, like, just got on the mic one night, and he's like, guys, did you hear the fucking Supreme Court or Congress or whatever the fuck?
Yeah.
You were there, yeah. And I wish I recorded that so bad. Even though I was a bit of an asshole because I was more like emotion than logic in that conversation, that would have been good content to have, because those kind of conversations are shit that just got to be recorded because they're important. Like, especially as society changes and different ideologies hit each other, and like something that I've always thought was really fascinating in our friend group is how different we all are, but we can still be friends most of the time at the end of the day. But yeah.
Well, in my head, that's how the court of law should work. It should just be a bunch of different people coming together and having that argument.
Right, I agree.
And trying to settle on what could be good for everyone.
Well, yeah, that politics, society in general, but that's never how it works. And then, not to mention, I hate this, I hate that we bring everything to a vote a lot of the time. Like, it's not that there's anything inherently wrong with voting on stuff, because I don't want, like, fucking totalitarian shit going on, or authoritarian shit, but what sucks is that just leads people to try to buy votes the entire time, rather than sitting down and having that long-form conversation to see who has more merits and pros and cons to ideas. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
Like, we have our politicians debate on TV instead of talk to each other. Instead of try to find a middle ground, instead of try to see who has more merits to their argument or their side of the story.
It's about victory now instead of...
Right. Like, when I was younger and way more conservative, I, like, loved to watch Ben Shapiro Destroys videos. And, like, watched the Daily Wire on a regular basis. And now I kind of can't watch it. It kind of cringes me out too much. Not even because I disagree with everything he says, which I do disagree with a fair bit of what Ben Shapiro has to say. Because I'm really socially, like, liberal, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's so polarizing. It's just so, the left did this today, they're so stupid. The left did that. There's no trying to meet in the middle on anything ever. And I especially can't watch the left stuff, because the left, all they do is virtue signal the right and tell them they're evil. Like, the whole time, basically. There's this guy called Vosh. I don't know if you've heard of him, but he's basically the left's version of Ben Shapiro.
I have not heard of him.
Yeah, he's the left's Ben Shapiro, and what he does is he has debates with influencer and social media icons that are, like, politically iconic or in the limelight at that time. He streams it live and has debates with them, but the problem is they're debates. They're not conversations. Like everything because he actually made some really good points about, like, poverty and socioeconomic problems, because he's a communist, and it's where Anthony gets most of his ideas, I believe. Or he's either a communist or he's really sympathetic towards communistic stuff. I think he's a commie, or at least he calls himself a socialist. But regardless, he's made some really good points about socioeconomic mobility in our country, and he actually really changed my opinion on some stuff, like hardcore. But I can't like watch him regularly. I can't be like a fan of him because he's so just, if you disagree with me, you're like evil type of mentality.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
That's crazy.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I've never even heard of the guy.
He's apparently, he gets like I think almost 20,000 viewers while he debates people, apparently. But yeah, and if you're interested, the fucking 3 in the morning Instagram like follows him on Instagram and stuff. If you want to check that out. And for anybody, yeah, for anybody listening, I've got a fucking Instagram for this channel in the description. I have I call my girlfriend photographer by her gamer tag, by the way. Same way I don't like to talk about parents' names. I don't want to bring her name into it either because I say some really politically contentious shit on this podcast. But yeah.
Just reads her ad off very slowly.
But that's why I call her photographer. But she manages my social media for me, and I have her fucking post I just came out with a new video post every time I do it.
Yeah, I mean, I've had some topics already pop into my head, but I just didn't want to talk about them because it included Simincisor.
Ooh, talk about it, bro. I mean, like, I don't. I mean, if you cause some drama, it's all right. But like, Simincisor hasn't been in the group for like what, over a year?
Yeah, I just don't like talking shit about people behind, like, it's publicly available, and I don't want them to find out through this. I'd rather just talk to them, you know?
Oh, okay. I didn't know you had any beef with Simmons, honestly.
Well, me and him and his brother were playing Call of Duty gunfight, and he started going off about anyone who supports Trump is, like, a straight-up racist.
Oh, right. Yeah,
Right.
This is because, you know, him and Badger were like close friends because they like went to school together for a really long time.
I don't even know.
Apparently, he pulled that on Badger, and now they don't really talk all that much anymore either.
Yeah, it just came out of nowhere too, and I was just trying to play some gunfight, man.
Right.
And it just kind of it came out of his mouth, and I'm like, hey, what?
Yeah.
Calm down. That was a very generalized statement because you can make generalized statements about anyone.
Well, you know, that's what Dark Game Master did about us. That's why he fell out. He reached out to McMillan, and they started talking and reconnected, and he accused him of being racist just because... Oh, I said McMillan. Holy shit.
Yeah, you did just say McMillan. You're going to have to censor that.
Yeah, we're fine. Let me see. That's 12.
And you're going to have to censor me because I said it because you said...
We're good. Time frames
Triple
12:56. Yeah, time frames 12:56. Let me write that note right here. 12:56. All right, we're fine. Yeah, I'm gonna need to listen to that closely. Jesus. That's fine. I know how to edit. We're good. It's not like the whole recording's fucked or something if I do that. I'm just lazy and would prefer not to.
Let's just go back. Your friend...
Yeah, Badger. He reached out to Badger and accused him of being racist and stuff just because he was willing to vote for Trump.
Yeah, that's...
Yeah.
I think anyone you vote for in America is not going to, like, label you as anything like that except for some, like, small county thing that no one knows about, you know?
Well, you know, more African Americans voted for Trump than I think any other Republican president in history. That doesn't
Republican,
mean, yeah, that doesn't mean Trump's right. That doesn't inherently make him a good president either. But it's like, I don't think there was ever a time when Trump ever blatantly got up on the stand and started saying racial slurs or wanting to like persecute minorities. Yeah,
he is a very eloquently spoken man. Even if he's like meme worthy,
I don't know about eloquently spoken, but I don't think he's ever directly said anything racist.
Well, he doesn't stutter. Like, he has really good speech skills. Even if it's not, like, agreeable things or memeable things, he still says it very well.
When you say eloquently spoken, people, like, for instance, in our society, or not in our society, in our political sphere right now, people would think, like, Barack Obama's eloquently spoken. Because he gave good speeches and because people thought he was very charismatic and stuff. While Trump... Like, depending on who's watching Trump, Some people think he speaks like super good because he talks like a businessman who's closing a deal, while other people think he speaks like a fucking savage or something. Like to college academics or liberal lawyers and doctors and stuff, like Trump just sounds like a fucking blue collar factory worker and they hate him. Do you get what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah, I get what you're saying, but
he does not sound like an educated.
I just mean he is very good at speaking
Right.
whatever
Yeah.
he's saying without stuttering or.
He definitely has.
He has
charisma.
charisma.
Gab for sure. Yeah.
I'm the type of person where I'd rather listen to that instead of whatever business, like whatever fancy person wants to talk. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not calling Barack Obama like a above me, but like.
Well, it sounds artificial to me.
Yeah, but I don't listen to speeches like that ever. But I'd just rather listen to some blue collar worker than.
Yeah, there's two forms of charisma. There's down to earth, like wanting to get along with the masses kind of charisma, and then there's really polished. I've rehearsed this speech 5 times. It was written by somebody else kind of charisma. You know what I'm saying?
And to correct my former statement, Barack Obama is above me because he was a former president. I did not mean it like that.
Actually, I think I got into an argument with Jake and Badger and Austin actually yesterday. They were like, somebody was complaining about how like if you dislike a president, that doesn't mean you wouldn't like say hi to them if you had the opportunity or like want to meet them or something. And I'm actually, as somebody who normally hates like the weird division in our country, if I disagree with the standing president, I'm probably not going to go out of my way to say hi to them or meet them. Like I don't inherently consider it an honor, especially if they're doing things I dislike.
There's not one famous person I'd go out to like meet specifically.
There's a few people that I'd like to, but I probably wouldn't because I don't want them to look at me as like a fan or like a groupie or something. You know what I'm saying?
If we already talked about Barack Obama, if I saw him at a restaurant, I'd just be like, "Hey, cool, that's Barack Obama." But like, if he walked up to me and talked to me,
well, yeah, that's different. If they come talk to you, I'm not gonna like run away from them because I disagree with their policies, right?
Yeah, I'm not gonna fanboy over any president.
Well, I hate the fact that we put presidents up on a pedestal like they're fucking kings or something when they're not. Like, I think that the point of our country is that our president's like an everyday person and like have checks and balances in place on them, and they're only the most powerful person on earth while they're president. And as soon as they're not president anymore, that needs to go away. Like,
all they are is a regular person with a fucking bodyguard.
Constitutional rights we do. So it's hard for me to put them on a pedestal like that. They're not autocrats, no matter how much it seems like it sometimes, and we shouldn't treat them as such. And it really bothers me.
Yeah, I mean, the only way I'd actively avoid a president is if they did something I'd consider heinous.
Right, and like for instance, I really don't like Joe Biden, and if I saw him, I wouldn't go out of my way to meet him. But that, like, I would still respect him. If I talked to him, I would call him Mr. President, right? And stuff like that, regardless of how much I disagree with him. Like, I'm not one of those people who are like, oh, they're not my president. But I'm also not, on the inverse, I'm not one of those people who are like, I'm going to give you the utmost respect and kowtow to you just because you're president. Like, that doesn't exist either.
The issue is the president should be a public servant, not...
Like, they're more of a speaker than they are a leader.
I'll put it this way.
In terms of being commander-in-chief. So, yeah.
The only president I'd probably get along with is Bill Clinton. I'd be like, my man.
Why is that? Just because you think he's...
I think he's probably a good personality outside of work, you know?
Other than being a pervert? Yeah, probably.
He's probably fun to hang around with. He probably does tons of drugs, but...
I believe it. I just don't know how he's married to Hillary Clinton, dude.
I don't know either.
She's ratchet as fuck.
The issue is with Bill, I'd be like, yeah, my man, but I'd have to watch my tongue. I say anything about his wife, I'm gonna be hanging from the ceiling the next day.
Yeah, the Clintons are kind of terrifying, dude. The Clinton
they are.
It's a real thing.
If there's any president I wouldn't want to talk to, like if they're alive or anything, would probably be a Reagan.
You wouldn't want to talk to Reagan?
Yeah.
Why is that?
He seems like the most boring person ever, and he did some things that I do not agree with.
Some of his weapon bans and stuff were just stupid.
They are stupid, and he's I used to think he was alright. Like, he holds himself really, really, really well. And then you just start doing research on it, and you're like, Reaganomics, like, fucking everything. Everything he did in office I didn't really like, pretty much. Not everything, but most of the things I've seen.
What'd you dislike about Reaganomics, if you don't mind me asking?
It was just... That was around the time period where crack started being sold to low-income households by the CIA, guaranteed. Like, I don't think that's a...
No, that's not debated anymore. We know the CIA had a lot to do with crack being introduced to the United States.
And it was him and the CIA and all that stuff who kind of forced jobs away from Americans with Reaganomics and all this other stuff. And it just... I attribute... In my mind, when I think of the downfall of America, I think around that period and him.
I see what you're saying. Your definition of Reaganomics might be skewed a little bit. Even if he was involved in that CIA shit with drugs, that wouldn't be what Reaganomics is. Right?
I did a research paper on it. I know what I'm talking about a little bit, but
Because as far as I know, Reaganomics is just the trickle-down theory. It's that tax companies less, companies have more money to hire more workers and expand, and by having more people in the workforce, more people are paying taxes, therefore the government makes more money from less taxes.
But the issue is he did that right at the time when he started giving poor people crack. So the poor people got poorer and the richer got richer. It created a divide.
Well, a big part of the problem, as far as I know, I don't know any specific policies, but this is what I've heard. It's hard to know what's true about him because he's such a politically contentious president. And, you know, the left, you get one left-leaning high school teacher and they'll tell you Reagan was Satan, while you get one right-leaning high school teacher. They sound like Zach, like Reagan was just like the most ultimate president of all time, right? It depends on who you ask about it. But,
yeah.
Fucking, it sounds like he gave tax breaks directly to rich people and not just companies. Because, you know, companies are separate legal entities that pay separate taxes from their owners.
Yes. But
so, like, I am all for taxing companies less and keeping a flat tax for the rich. Like, completely. That's how I feel about it.
I think there needs to be a way to keep CEOs from hoarding offshore accounts. They need to be able to put money back into the environment.
Right, because if it isn't an offshore account, it's effectively taken out of our ecosystem, our economic ecosystem, until it's spent at some point. And it's these people have so much money that it's not going to be spent.
And the only way to spend so much money that it goes back is going to be giving it to another rich person who's going to put it in their offshore account.
Well, it's either doing that or it's expanding. And that's the idea of trickle down, and what a lot of Reaganomics was, is if you let the rich and companies have more money, they'll use it to enterprise more. And you know, that does happen sometimes. You look at the good part of objectivism. We had this conversation the other day while I was playing Minecraft, I think. True objectivists, Elon Musk, for instance, and Bezos, which they're both two faces of objectivism. One's more maniacal than the other, clearly. But you look at that kind of objectivism, and it's not about the money anymore. It's about accomplishing as much as possible before the fucking sun goes down the next day, because they're just so driven and nuts. And they choose two different strategies to do that. Bezos is a bit he's a bit crony the way he does things, especially the way he treats his employees and stuff. I don't think he's breaking any laws, but he's definitely not somebody I'd want to work for. While Musk, on the other hand, might as well be a saint, because he...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because he's literally hemorrhaging money on SpaceX. It doesn't make him any money except for investors and stuff. And that's because he's driving humanity forward. Like, literally. It's probably... Like, I freaking was screaming at Anthony the other day because he tried saying he doesn't like Elon Musk very much either because he's rich. And I'm like, dude, do you have any idea how much money he just basically spends out of pocket to try to get us to another planet because he's afraid of humanity's extinction? Like, this isn't making him any money, and it's not like I guess it could be boosting his ego and his, like, fame a little bit, but it's like, he's literally just trying to get us to live on another planet. And he's going to crazy lengths to do it, and he's quite possibly innovated humanity more in his lifetime for the least amount of reward than anybody, like, ever. So it's hard to... Yeah, I got really upset with him for that. Because Anthony, you know, being a communist, he just wanted to hate him because he's rich, basically.
Wanting to hate someone because they're rich just feels like envy.
Yeah? Tell me about it.
The issue I have with modern day billionaires is there's a lot of billionaires, because nowadays if you start a company and it starts doing well, you're more than likely going to get bought out rather than expand an enterprise, because people have so much money that they could give you more than you could ever dream of just for the company.
Yeah, they just want to get rid of their competition.
Especially Disney.
Yeah, no, monopolies and stuff are definitely we're in the era of try monopolies instead of one monopolies.
Mm-hmm.
We dealt with the era of one monopolies because there was no legislation to stop them from just buying everything.
Mm-hmm.
And we regulated against that. But now you get groups of like 2 to 3 massive companies, which technically aren't monopolies because there's more than one, and they just buy everything up and have silent agreements with each other not to step on each other's toes.
And there's also things, I don't remember where I heard it, but certain companies would get lawsuits, like company-ending lawsuits, and they would split off into a separate company, give all their money to that one, and the lawsuit would go to a company that doesn't have anything really to do with the original.
Yeah. No, that's how it works a lot of the time.
I don't know how to go about that.
Regulation has to be done in a way that you're not punishing people for being successful. Because, like, regulation... I tried explaining this to Anthony, but, he doesn't look at economics like it's a game. Or, like... He doesn't understand, and people on the left, in those kind of circles, especially communists or socialists and stuff, don't understand that some of us live for the challenge and some of us just like to make things, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's the motivation argument. Some people won't go to work if they only get what they need.
Yep.
Right. And like me, for instance, I don't want to only get what I need. I want room for growth. I want the sky to be the limit, and I still want to work for it. I don't want it to just be handed to me. But
it's like,
yeah,
someone I know, I'm not going to throw any names out, but he works at Papa John's for like $8 an hour, and he could be working a job that's 2 feet away at the casino nearby
and be making
for double that.
Killing.
For double or triple that, right?
Right.
In a fast food job, nonetheless, and he just doesn't want to do it.
Yeah, I mean, some people are content with less, and like, I don't want to say this as like a derogatory term at all, but some people are sheep. Like, not in a derogatory way. Like, some people need to be directed. Some people need to be protected. Some people are okay with giving their power, whether it be economic power or voting power or power of their voice, whatever, to somebody else to take the reins from them. Religion used to do that for a long time until people realized that the religions themselves are corrupt by people. So now people do that for governments. And it's a constant thing.
Yeah, I mean, there's been music about it since the 70s at least, probably before that. I just know one from the 70s.
Well, yeah, and that's why I gave up on like wanting a capitalistic utopia where like everything's fully objectivistic and it's a capitalist wasteland, right? Like, I don't want that anymore because that would work for me and it wouldn't work for anybody else. And it doesn't always work for me. Because, really smart capitalists find ways to kill their competition before they start to exist.
Yeah.
So it's without regulation, it's not fair anymore. But yeah,
you're gonna get that bell curve no matter what.
Exactly. And I was trying to explain to Anthony in a conversation that like the motivation's super important, and when you regulate somebody, it means they found a loophole in the game or they found a strategy in the game that's too overpowered. Like you need to look at it like a video game. Sometimes it needs to be updated, things need to be nerfed, things need to be rebalanced, right?
Mm-hmm.
And but you shouldn't reset somebody's fucking account or somebody's accomplishments just because they found a glitch. You get what I'm saying? Like, technically they played the game the best, therefore you don't get to just erase them for playing the game the best. Because Anthony looks at like a monopoly, or not just Anthony. I hate that I always say him. He's just the one with these opinions. I'd say Jake has these opinions too, but like the left sees monopolies or people who developed a winning strategy and want to punish them like they did something wrong, when in reality the game rules allowed it. If it,
Yeah.
yeah. If they're doing something illegal, then they should be punished. If it's not illegal yet, they shouldn't be punished. They should be regulated, and there needs to be some kind of compensation for making a game that didn't have perfect rules.
Yeah. Though I saw an image yesterday that kind of like sparked my interest. It was like, or I think it was like a TikTok or something stupid. It was like the left thinks that corrupt billionaires are ruining the United States, and the right thinks corrupt government is ruining the United States. And the person who made the thing was like, but they realize the corrupt billionaires are making the government. And I'm like, you realize the government's making the corrupt billionaires.
Exactly. Both.
It's like a whole system.
Yeah, both sides of the party's boogeymen are literally the same people. They're the same people. The only exception is how the left hates religion. Other than that, like, them hating the rich, us hating the politicians, we literally hate the same people. The rich and the politicians are the same people.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind anyone's religion except for, like, as long as you don't try to hurt people. So.
Have you heard Jake, Anthony, or even Coltrane talk about religion? That's what I mean about the left hating religion. Like,
I haven't heard any of them because I haven't really talked to any of them, really.
Right. So, there's this sentiment on the left, not the entire left, that would be an overgeneralization. And it's also mainly just directed at Christianity a lot of the time.
Mm-hmm.
But they just hate Christianity, they hate religious people, and they definitely look at anybody who is outwardly religious kind of like they're stupid a lot of the time. This is pretty anecdotal for those listening, but, like, you see it a lot of the time with, like, I think, you know, in universal healthcare situations and in healthcare bills, they try to make, like, Catholic institutions pay for their employees' abortions and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And stuff like that. Like, just not having any care. Like, they do that, but they wouldn't ever make a Muslim pay for somebody to eat pork. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, that's basically what I'm getting at.
Well, I was in that boat for a very long time, and I thought religious people were stupid. But then I came to realize that stupidity was just them being happy.
Right, like, exactly. Some people are okay with being naive or unknowledgeable about some stuff in the universe and reality if it gives them some inner peace, and I understand that. Ignorance is bliss does not mean that the person being ignorant is actually an ignorant person. A lot of the time that's a choice. I've also come to the conclusion in my life that it's not my job to convince people out of their ignorance a lot of the time.
I mean, everyone has to find their own way, because by the time they hit you in their road, they should have already made their choice.
Yeah, and not
at this
even
point.
Just that. Everybody's at different stages in their life and in their journey and shit. Not to sound too hippie, but, like, in their life journey, in their developmental cycle, to know where the fuck they are, what they're going to be doing. Like, yeah, it's
I mean, people do different shit. I mean, you could wake up in your 30s and decide you just want to be a Buddhist monk and live in the hills.
Yeah, and if, you know, it's a free fucking country, or while it is a free country, go for it. I'm not going to judge you for that, but it's not for me, right?
One of the most famous, like, instances of that was George Harrison.
Who's that?
He is, I believe, a guitarist for the Beatles. He was living a pretty normal life, and then something tragic happened, and he just instantly started being, like, pure Christian.
Oh, yeah.
I believe.
That happens a lot. Some people turn to higher powers and stuff, or the ideas of that, in an attempt to make sense of tragedy or hardship.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know how you feel about the concept of God or a higher power and stuff, but I don't personally think that it has anything to do with the events of what happens here on Earth, like, at all. I think that would defeat the purpose of life.
I want to be ignorant and, like, believe in that stuff to be happy, but there's no way I could possibly, like, come to that logical conclusion in my mind.
Same. Like, I can even think of logical situations in which a higher power does exist, but I still think it's a hands-off situation where they don't, like, negate or control our environments or realities. You know what I'm saying?
The world has a higher chance of being a fucking computer simulation to me than created by some... Yeah.
But there's still a god in a computer simulation.
I'm just saying, like...
It's not the mystical, up in the clouds, bearded man god.
Everything that we've come to terms with has, like, some sort of logical basis.
Right.
and it doesn't make too much sense to me.
No, I get what you're saying completely. The mystical way of it doesn't make sense to me, and I'm iffy about the simulation theory because I know we look at the math, and the math says we do live in a simulation, right?
Yeah.
But it's like,
the issue is every universe has to have its own laws.
right, every universe has to have its own laws, and then on top of that, it's like, if we do live in a simulation, I'm also in the boat that, like, if the simulation is real enough, it's real. Do you get what I'm saying? Like,
The synth debate.
yeah, like, we give life meaning through our hardship and our pain and our happiness and our experiences and all this kind of stuff. And so just because something's a simulation doesn't mean it's fake. It's just a different vector of experiencing reality, in my opinion.
And everyone's going to be at a different point in the road for that.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it's very hard for people to come to the conclusion that, like, even though everything is artificial, it's just as real as if it was real.
Mm-hmm.
Because to me, the meaning behind life matters way more than the actual vectors that life takes place in.
I keep going in that, like, weird roundabout pattern where I, like, feel like everything is fine. I come up with my own meaning, and then I go, like, a couple months, I'm like, I need something better. I want to be religious, and then, like, a couple months later, I'm like, no, I have my own meaning.
Well, you know, having your own meaning is religious, in my opinion. It's just a different kind. You know what I'm saying?
But it... You know what I'm saying, though.
Yeah,
like, I don't...
do. You want to join, like, a religious community or a community-based thought process in an attempt to make sense of everything, but then at the same time... Or that's a temporary feeling for you.
It's a very temporary feeling because any sort of religious community just...
They're too controlling.
Does not... They're too controlling, and they do not hit any of the marks I need, especially... Right. Anything that has to do with hell, I think fear should not be a motivation.
Oh yeah, I agree with that completely. It's okay. So I agree with that for people like me and for people like you, right?
Yeah.
But just as we came to the conclusion that some people are just going to be sheep, and I don't say that in a derogatory way. I mean, there's different kinds of people out there.
Mm-hmm.
Some people will operate within the boundaries that are given to them, while other people want to break the boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, certain kinds of sheep people, I mean, that's where tales and warnings of hell come from, to stop people from just being debaucherous, chaotic individuals. Some
and
people,
they still do
need
it.
that fear. Yeah, some people will still do it anyway, but I think other people it'll keep in check. But, like, you know, the reason we have the concept of capital punishment in our society even isn't because it actually, like, solves the problem. It's because it's a deterrent. Nobody wants to die. Yeah. That's why laws are a thing at all. Nobody expects for the laws to be followed. Nobody. The punishments are deterrents.
I mean, everything in life is just consequences.
Yeah. It's all just guidelines. And
if I drink this bottle of bleach,
it'll kill me, but does that mean the bottle of bleach will never be drank? Well, we know that's not the case, yeah.
If I walk onto this no-gun sign area with a gun...
Yeah, exactly. Like the rules were written to be broken, and I don't say that in a way that means we should go break the rules. I say that in the way that there wouldn't be rules if they weren't going to be broken. That's the problem.
Yeah. The law wouldn't be put in place if someone didn't already do the stupid thing.
Exactly. Now, I hate the ruling out of fear thing as well, because me and you, for people like us, I agree completely, because it's like, if you are only doing something out of fear, you're not a good person. You're a constrained person. Fucking Parthenax on top of the throat of the world in Skyrim says something along the lines of what is better, to overcome your evil nature through great effort, or to be born good? Something along those lines. Or I think he said it the exact opposite. He said, what is better, to be born good or to overcome your evil nature through great effort, is what he said. And
that's why...
Yeah. Like, I'm naturally a really selfish, evil, materialistic person. I really am. And through great effort, I try to change my very nature in itself to be something else. And I think that's the meaning of life, and that's what makes me a good person, is the effort of trying to be better.
And everyone has to figure it out for themselves. That's why I like the book Lord of the Flies.
You do like that book?
Kinda, yeah.
Okay. What?
I mean, it was a bunch of shithead children. I mean, they were all... Yeah, but everyone's gonna have to go through that life when they're young, where they like kind of get thrown to the wolves and they have to figure out their own morals.
Well, what's fucked about Lord of the Flies is it's really not. I mean, other than the fact that there's no adult supervision at all, it's not that much different than your first fucking day of preschool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, obviously shit's way more literal in the Lord of the Flies, and the consequences are way more real.
Mm.
But, like, put a bunch of kids alone together, and that kind of shit's what happens.
Everyone has to learn their own morals and figure out what they want to do, because just through life hurting people isn't going to help you, but some people still do it anyways because they didn't learn.
Well, and there's something to really worry about, because not only do I believe that, like, there's redemption in life, people can do truly evil stuff and redeem themselves. Like, I'm a very forgiving person in that way.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, some people have to do evil and then see what that evil does to learn from it. Do you get what yeah, like
I mean,
if you're born good, that doesn't make you a good person, that makes you harmless.
Yeah, I mean, the issue is everyone has terrible thoughts sometimes, like awful thoughts.
Right. Like, I bullied some people when I was a little kid, and I've been bullied loads of times as well.
Oh, I did too. Yeah, right. I would say it helped more than hurt.
Well, kinda.
Not.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. But I've bullied some people, and it wasn't until I was driven to the point of wanting to kill myself that I realized I'm not going to bully somebody ever again.
Yeah, I mean, I got hurt like that too.
Right. And what's really fascinating about the world sometimes is people of very similar intelligence levels can experience the same thing and go to two completely different conclusions.
Yes, yeah. Like, I mean, the issue is everyone's different no matter what. Like, if you take a set of genetically identical twins, put them in the same room, give them the same shit, they're both gonna be, yeah.
And sometimes they do the same thing, but you're with genetic twins, you are literally flipping a coin 50-50. So it's like, yeah. Because the nature versus nurture debate's a real one, bro. Because some genes make you way more likely to do shit than not.
I mean, certain people are just gonna be bad all their life, but
yeah,
I don't. Sitting there and trying to control their nature, it's just fucking heinous sometimes, like Clockwork Orange.
You mean if other people try to control their nature for them?
Yeah, like I'm talking about if you've ever seen the movie Clockwork Orange.
No. If you want to give me a summary.
Basically, it's a British kid who I want to say is schizophrenic. They didn't really
explain what was wrong with him.
He was just a criminal. Like, he kept doing bad shit. Like, he killed a lady and went to prison.
Uh-huh.
And instead of, like, fixing the problem at their root, they trained him to feel pain anytime he got bad thoughts.
And that bothers you, obviously.
Yes, because you shouldn't control someone's nature like that. You should make them come to their own conclusion.
I do like that idea. Was he capable of coming to that own conclusion, though? I guess is the question.
I don't know. Yeah. The movie doesn't really... It's supposed to be a thinker, because it doesn't... I want to say it doesn't come to its own, like... All it does is give you this nasty person and makes you feel bad for him.
Right.
It doesn't show you what his future could be, because his future's taken away from him by the... They call it the Ludovico technique.
Right.
I think. Someone's gonna fucking correct me immediately.
Well, they might have made up what the technique is in the movie, but, like, its foundation is in Pavlovian psychology.
Yeah, it's Pavlov. Anytime you want to
certain things with certain actions or environments, yeah.
Mm. And that was a very big movie back in the day, because I think that came out around times British people were talking about it. It's a British movie.
Right.
It was a Kubrick movie. It had to be early 80s or late 80s.
Mm. Well, the British went through their punk rebellion phase like a little bit before we did.
Yeah. That was just... I rewatch that movie like once a year, because it's one of those movies where every time you watch it, you're going to know something new.
Right. Well, there's an Ayn Rand book you might actually want to read sometime or listen to on Audible. It's called Anthem. And literally, you could read it in a day, let alone listen to it in a day. Very, very short book. But it depicts this, like, terrible dystopian futuristic society. I think it was one of the first books Rand wrote, actually. And what's weird is it's got a medieval era aesthetic to it. There's no technology, even though it's supposedly in the future. And what ends up happening is the main character, like for starters, the society has no concept of the self, no concept of I or ego or anything, and it's evil to think that way according to their society as well. Like when the main character, because it's written in the first person, the main character refers to himself as we, because there is no I. They removed it from the language. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, and like for instance, the main character is a little bit too tall. Like he's 2 to 3 inches taller than the average human. So because of that, he is ostracized by everybody in authority over him because he's too tall. And it's a sin to be that much different than everybody else, even though it's something you can't control at all, right? Shit like that. It's really fucked up, but it's a really good story. It was Rand's like warding at true ideological communism in which everybody's forced to be the same.
I think there was a story in high school I remember about that.
Similar to that?
Well, it was about forcing handicaps on people to make everyone equal.
Yeah. This it was this really big buff bald guy, right? And they literally forced machines on people's heads to make that guy more stupid, and they made him wear like a stupid outfit or something so he didn't look as attractive. Or some shit. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Which was weird, because I think the schooling system would be left and try and push that agenda.
Well, it definitely seems that way sometimes. It's like in any way, shape, or form, public schooling here in the United States wants to make everybody as the same as possible, except when it comes to the actual grade point average itself.
Mm-hmm.
Then they want to draw as much distinction as possible. They want as many valedictorians as possible. They want as many honor class students as possible. They just push the shit out of that.
Yeah, I did not follow their system at all, and I hated it.
Yeah, me too. No, I'm probably borderline special needs in terms of my math capability, my math IQ. Like it's pretty
Mine's
bad.
kind of the opposite. I have trouble reading, but my math is like superb.
Right. My math is awful, and it's because I really struggle visualizing in my head numbers and carrying them and like doing math in my head. I can't do very basic stuff like 14 plus 7 type shit. I can't just think that in my
21.
mind. Yeah. And it fucks me up really bad. But like for instance, to do 14 plus 7, I got to think about what's 7 plus 4. I'd figure out that's 11. I'd be like, well, if it's 14, then that's got to be 21. You get what I'm saying? And that's how I eventually get there, which makes you really fucking slow compared to everybody else.
Yeah, the issue is everyone has their own
way of doing it.
Everyone has their own strengths and weaknesses, and they don't play off of that. Well, once you get to high school, you can do your electives and shit, but you still have that same curriculum.
Right, and schools in the United States don't accept the fact that some people can just be handicapped in certain subjects, and that they're probably not going to follow a career with that, so we're not going to enforce that on them. Some people are incapable of certain things, man.
I really wish that high school gave you like a career readiness class that wasn't portfolios and resumes. It was trying to figure out what you were.
They can't try to force as many kids as possible to go off to college if they do that, though. Because to go to college, they expect you to be good at everything.
That's just... especially now with online schooling.
Yeah, because schools get more and more bragging rights and more reputation the more kids they send off to college. They care significantly more about that than whether or not kids actually become productive members of society.
I'm allowed to say the big school near us, right? Because that's...
Yeah, you're fine. They know we live in South Bend, so whatever.
Yeah, well, I have this issue with Notre Dame girls.
What about it?
Some of them are just straight up... I don't want to say, like, stupid, but, like, they just can't do some logical thinking. And in my mind, they have to be good at everything. They go to Notre Dame, they have to have these good grades, but I just don't know if they have... Like, I met one girl who literally couldn't do basic math.
Yeah,
and she was going to Notre Dame.
Yeah, I've met a lot of people in college or in higher level classes. Because, like, I was in high school, even though I fancy myself as a fairly intelligent individual, actually. In
Mm-hmm.
high school, I wasn't a very driven or motivated person, and because of that, like, I mean, obviously, I wasn't going to do good in math. At the end of high school, I had all A's and B's, and then I had like a fucking C minus in my just standard Common Core math class, all the way up to
Oh
my senior
yeah.
year. I barely passed that shit.
We do not talk about my grades.
Right. But I wasn't in any honors classes or advanced classes because I didn't want to put forth the effort to fucking do that.
I was.
Yeah, school was a job. It wasn't something I wanted to excel in or something I wanted to like.
I started my
Yeah.
freshman year with AP Algebra 2, right?
Mhm.
And I literally showed my math literacy. Like, I could do all the problems pretty well within, like, quicker than most other people in the class.
Right.
But I ended up failing that class because you would give 30 problems of homework a night
You
when
weren't
that's
fucking
like
doing
2 or
that
3
shit.
hours.
Yeah.
In freshman year, I don't know what it was, but it felt like the work went down as you went further into your high school career. For me, at least.
Yeah, I mean, if you stay in Common Core classes, that actually is kind of true. The only exception is math, is because you always get those teachers that throw as much homework on you as possible.
I don't know what it is about math teachers, and
Well, the problem with math teachers is if you went to school for math, you're probably all logic, like zero fucking emotion.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, and like, you know, there's room for people like that in society. They're useful people. It just kind of sucks to have them as teachers because they don't connect with their students very well.
Yeah.
And you know that we really fuck up in academics. There needs to be way more psychology in our structuring of academics because we do not acknowledge the diversity in people's minds at all. They really focus on this cookie cutter in and out. If I teach you this, you should get this out of it kind of system.
On the other hand, though, if they put their hand in the cookie jar too much, it could be bad.
Right. And like, you know, I say I'm a little like more on the intelligent side while still admitting I'm autistic as shit at math because I am. Okay? Like that is one of my faults as a mentally capable person. But with all of that known, I've learned the most in my life from just open dialogue with people. It's what drove me to want to do a podcast and stuff to begin with. I've learned more in my conversation with you right now than I would in an entire year of high school, probably. Or at least in terms of one class. And I've learned, like, without a doubt, I've learned more from my peers, from the people I was sitting next to in those classes, than I ever did from the teachers themselves, unless it was a class that I was very, very interested in, already good at.
Yeah, I mean, like, certain English classes, they would tell you to read the stuff, right? They'd tell you to read the paper, and then fill out a paper using the information. Instead of actually reading and digesting what you're reading, you would just skim through it. And
No, yeah, and that's because they focus way more on making sure you actually read the book instead of, like, getting stuff out of it and digesting it and talking about it with people.
yeah, that's why I enjoyed some of the short stories, because they could read it in the classroom period and be like, yes, everyone here read this because I was there.
And, you know, there's really not a good reason to... I dream of a world where they test what way you comprehend material the best.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, if I had Audible in high school, I would have read every one of those books because I apparently love to read. I just don't love to actually sit down and read.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not because I've got a low Lexile level or I'm incapable of comprehending it. It's because I'll fucking fall asleep. It's so boring. It's so mentally taxing. It's so... Not to mention, I consider actually reading an absolute waste of time. Not because the act of reading is a waste of time, but because if I listen to Audible, dude, I'm working out while I'm doing that. I'm cleaning my room. I'm getting my car washed. I'm mowing the lawn. I'm doing everything except just sitting still in one spot, wasting the day away. And I know not everybody can do that, right? Like, I get that.
I was weird as fuck in middle school because I was on this thing where, like, I loved math so much that, like, they would do, like, this rotate around, like, you go to every classroom and every teacher has to teach a certain subject. And the one teacher's like, oh, I suck ass at math, so we could either do a packet or we could just fucking, like, play some stupid bingo game. And I'm like, I'd rather do the packet. I don't want to waste my time.
Right. And yeah.
Everyone looked at me like I'm weird, and I'm like, we're in school, right? We should be...
No, I get what you're saying. And Depending on the subject, sometimes I'd rather work than play too. Actually, that happened to me a lot, like especially in English class.
I can't stand English, dude.
I love it. I love to write. I love to talk. I love all of that stuff. But
I love all that stuff, but English teachers have no idea how to teach.
Oh yeah, sometimes they fucking ruin it. Depending on the English teacher, that kind of concept can be made or broken really easily.
Out of my 10 different English teachers, 2 of them are good.
I've had one good English teacher in the whole time, and it was pretty awful. I'm not gonna lie.
My least favorite.
Yeah.
It was my least favorite was he wasn't strict. He kept trying to be down to earth with us, and it just made me respect him less for some reason. I just did not want to do anything in that class.
Really, you weren't motivated because he was too lenient?
He was too down to earth. He was too trying to do this stuff, and then he would throw these heavy assignments at you, like 9-paragraph, like an essay. Do it.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
And that was one of my least favorite teachers. He made us read Catcher in the Rye. It was junior year, and I could not fucking stand that book, and he loved it. He was that type of person, and I'm like, the main character in this book is just a whiny bitch.
Right.
You
ever run into fictional movies, books, or video games and stuff where the world building is so awesome but the story sucks ass, because of an unlikable main character or something along those lines? I
don't really get into world building that much. I'm the type of person where if I watch a movie or play a video game, I'm kinda not interested in the world building until the second season.
Right.
Or just I won't watch it all if the main character is fucking awful.
See, a well-developed logical world is required for me. Because I world build, it's what I do for fun. You know what I'm saying?
I love world building once you get the characters set up. You have to have likable characters, and then the world comes. And then making sense in between comes after that to me.
Well, yeah, I agree. In terms of presentation, the characters need to come first because that's the hook. That's how you get people to watch it. That's how you get people to play the game, right? But lore, deep, enriched lore is a requirement to keep my attention.
It was Sword Art Online.
Yeah.
That was a big one. I absolutely hated the main character in that one. The world building was pretty alright. I like that, and then it just got weird. Right. I stopped watching. Game of Thrones. I love Game of Thrones. I liked Game of Thrones season 1 through 5. 5.5.
So, I loved Game of Thrones as well, and I was able to watch all of it. I would say the quality of world building was amazing because Martin actually made it. It wasn't made by a fucking director, on the spot.
Yeah, it was made by director. It wasn't made by a director. Martin made all that stuff. I don't think there's... Even the unlikable characters were there for a reason and doing what they want because they have their own motivations.
Right. And then on top of that, the world building skimped a little bit because you learn so much in the books that just is never talked about in the show. But that's because you don't want people to sit and fucking listen to dialogue all fucking day either. So
you have to digest stuff. You can't...
Right. And, I'm a niche observer that way. I will, the Shoddycast on YouTube. Have you heard of them?
No.
All right, they're an old YouTube channel. I guess technically they're probably dormant now, but I think they're awesome. They literally have these series called the Storyteller series, and it's where this fictional character they made up, but they add it to every fictional universe they talk about as if it's lore almost.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a guy who tells the story of the fictional world that he's in. So, for instance, there's a Skyrim storyteller where he's literally just this vagrant that travels from town to town in Skyrim, and he talks about Elder Scrolls lore.
Mm-hmm.
And they've got 8 seasons of him just talking about Elder Scrolls lore, and it's not only is it everything that's happened from Arena all the way up to Skyrim, all the 5 Elder Scrolls games, but it's also him talking about random quests or more niche stuff or stuff written in books way before then. So he's got that, and there's also a Fallout one where it's literally this guy in power armor walking around with an iPod. That's his video recorder that he talks to, and all he does is tell stories about Fallout lore.
That's why I wish Oblivion was not potato-y.
Right, because the lore in the story in Oblivion is fucking epic, but it's a potato.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you can't take it seriously because the front of it's awful, like the art style. If they remade that game with like,
Even just Skyrim level stuff, it'd be playable. It'd be so much more playable. I couldn't fully get into Oblivion just because the character models and like the wonky animations it killed me. Yeah, and that's because I was spoiled and I started with Skyrim first.
Thank you, kind sir. Yeah. I started with Oblivion. I still couldn't get into that shit. I like Morrowind more than Oblivion.
I did too, actually, for some reason. I wonder why that is.
Morrowind's harder to get into, but it looks more realistic than Oblivion, which came out.
It really does. I guess they probably got a little cartoony with Oblivion, didn't
they? Got way too cartoony.
Yeah, and that's what happened.
And their budget restraints with the dialogue made it so that pretty much everyone had the same accents.
Yeah, but that didn't have to happen. It's because they chose to grab some really high-level characters.
They didn't. They shouldn't have done that.
Voice actors, yeah, they grabbed really high-level voice actors to try to make it work. Like they have fucking what's his name? Whatever. They've got some really high-level actors voice acting in that game. Like they did in Fallout 3 with your dad. Who is he again? I'm trying to remember his name. He's from Lost, or not Lost. He's from Taken or whatever the fuck. He's Qui-Gon from fucking Star Wars. I'm trying to remember his name. Yeah, Liam Neeson. That's your dad in Fallout 3.
Oh, yeah. Well, why would you spend money on these big names when you could spend like a quarter of that on a small name, and if you don't like them, get another one?
Well, sadly, that's what's wrong with the entire Bethesdian game model, is they have this super niche group of players who love them and will play these games like till they fucking die. Skyrim's modding community is still like full right now.
Mm-hmm.
Like 12 years after the game came out, it only gets bigger, I think, every year, while Bethesda's constantly trying to grow their market. Because you have to, as a business, you have to constantly grow, which is why games keep getting more casual, which is why Fallout 4 had a voice actor for the protagonist, which is why all this stuff keeps happening. Which, the voice actors in Fallout 4 did a great job, by the way, but that defeats the purpose of the game.
An RPG.
Yeah, you're supposed to be you.
You might as well have not had a character creation screen.
Exactly. And, I butt heads with people in our friend group all the time because they're like, why don't you play The Witcher 3? Why don't you love that game? Why don't you play Dragon Age? Why don't you do all this stuff?
You're not role-playing. You're playing as...
I'm not role-playing. I'm encompassing the persona of somebody else who already exists with limited freedom to change their personality a little bit.
Mm-hmm. I tried to play through Witcher 3, and I got to the third act with like all these the world building was like good. It was a good game.
Yeah, it looks like a fascinating universe. It really does.
It hit this point where there was elves and there was like multi-dimensional travel or some shit,
and that fucked you up a little bit.
It just lost me. I immediately stopped playing.
Right,
and not to mention, I accidentally fucked every girl. Because I started with the redhead, right? And then they're like, do Josefina or whatever your name is, Jose, or I don't remember. I haven't played the game in forever. Do her because she's fucking funny. She has like this weird horse thing, and I did it, and I didn't go back to a save on accident.
Right, and then you made a romance with a different character, and you just went all the way through.
Yeah, on accident. Yeah. Well, the issue is if you romance multiple characters, your daughter figure doesn't like you as much.
Oh, because you're a fucking man slut, kind of?
Yeah.
Yeah, Siri doesn't like you as much.
She's like, why do I have so many different, like, stepmoms?
Right.
You're like, oh.
There's that. And then there's also, what was I going to say? I'm trying to remember. Oh, Mass Effect. That was a game that I could actually get over the voice actor a little bit. But that's because it was designed with that in mind. The Bethesdian game equation didn't have a voice actor in mind. You know what I'm saying?
The Mass Effect topic is very weird for me because I've only played Andromeda and that was for 5 minutes.
Oh god, and that was the worst one. I won't buy that one.
If you talk about Mass Effect, you're gonna have to explain everything to me, and I'm probably not gonna listen because I don't have that much of a care for it.
Right. It's an RPG game, but it's really watered down. So like you make Shepard. No matter what, you're Shepard, and you have a voice actor, but you can customize the character up and down, including a last name in Mass Effect 1. And a backstory a little bit. Very limited. You've got like 3 options to choose from, but it really changes like who you are as a person, kind of, depending on that backstory. And for having such limited decisions, you end up having way more freedom than you'd think in that game. It's really all I'm going to say about it.
I would want Elder Scrolls 6 to be kind of like New Vegas.
I want it to be like New Vegas story-wise, because you had so many options.
Yeah, not gameplay, obviously.
Yeah, not gameplay and not map design. For such an open-ended game, that had a really linear map.
It was go to the strip and then go find people off on the sides.
Basically. Like its map, I think, was way smaller than Fallout 3's.
The DLC was fucking poo-poo.
Some of it was, and some of it was fun.
All of it was, to me.
I didn't think it was poo-poo, but I didn't think it was free roam either. Like, it was super linear. All except Big Mountain was super linear, in my opinion.
You took a game that was like critically acclaimed for its non-linear gameplay
and made it really linear.
Added these really linear missions with nothing but constant dialogue that you have no reason to care about.
Yeah,
I just don't like any of them.
Way too much dialogue and way too much, like, yeah. Now, if they put the dialogue there and made it completely optional, that would be cool.
Yeah, I want Elder Scrolls 6 to be like, it needs. I hate to say it, but it needs to lock you out of other factions if you go to a certain place.
Agreed. Skyrim, you could become everything and anything.
It was so immersion. Like, there's no immersion in that game. If you join the Dark Brotherhood, you should not be able to be a thief.
Well, I don't know about that. I think certain guilds should go with other guilds, like
the issue is
sneaking-based guilds like the Dark Brotherhood and the Thief stuff. You shouldn't be able to do them at the same time, and you should end your work with the other one to go to the other.
Yeah, but the issue is if they know about the Dark Brotherhood, like you do something like assassinate the Emperor,
yeah,
and they know it was you for some reason. Like, the whole mantra of the Thieves Guild was no killing.
Well, I think it would be cool if you ended your affiliation with a faction and there was some dialogue where it's like, are you going to leave that life behind and become a thief? We steal, we don't kill. It defeats the purpose of stealing if you kill the person you stole from, type of shit.
If there was like a dynamic system,
a dynamic system where you have different relationships with different factions, and then on top of that you could change your ideologically driven story part of your character, right?
Mm-hmm.
That would be cool to me. Like, something they really missed an opportunity on is the companions quest line. You know, the Silver Hand and everything, how they like want to kill all the werewolves and they want to kill the companions just because they're werewolves and stuff.
I didn't do companions that much. I did it once, and all I remember is just going to a place, killing some shit, and then trying to cure my fucking werewolf stuff.
Right. So they make you a werewolf, and it turns out that, like, the companions, the super honorable warriors guild, which is, like, supposed to be nothing but honor and victory, and, like, it's got a dark secret that they're all werewolves. And there's this faction of werewolf hunters called the Silver Hand, and you get these unique weapons called Silver Swords, Silver Great Swords, and stuff that do extra damage to werewolves that they use in the faction. But what's cool is, like, if you really look at context clues, it's suggested that the Silver Hand used to be part of the companions.
Oh.
Yeah, but they never talk about it. They never go into detail about it. And the only thing that makes you think that is that they're obsessed with retrieving the fragments of Wuthrad, that big axe that Talos or that Ysgramor used.
Mm-hmm.
They're obsessed with getting those fragments, and they have a bunch of books about, like, the companions in their inventories. That's all that makes you think that. But what's interesting is you could draw the conclusion that they used to be part of the companions, and they're like a splinter cell of the companions that want to go back to the old honorable ways and get rid of the werewolves.
Mm-hmm.
And then they could have written two storylines, one where you purge the companions of the werewolf blood, and the other where you are the werewolves, right? And there can even be like some New Vegas kind of middle ground where if your speechcraft is high enough or you become good enough friends with both factions, you can come to a peaceful solution. One where you cure them all instead of kill them, right? The other where you kill them all, like, type of shit like that. Maybe even a way where instead of getting rid of the Silver Hand, you turn them into werewolves too, right? Like, you need that kind of open-ended shit.
I just want them to spend 10 years on a game and make that game as open-ended as possible.
With as many different directions and ideological outcomes as possible. That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Vegas was perfect for that, dude. Like, anything can happen based on your decisions. Anything.
Yeah. The only thing that, like, gets me is when you include an open world, but there's no open world aspects to it. You just kind of get told to go somewhere, and you go there.
What do you... Oh.
Like, Red Dead is one of the big ones.
Yeah.
Like, you have this huge open world, you can explore it, but the whole story isn't about the open world. It's about following the marker and then going there.
Right, and it's not the same kind of open world at all. It's too story-driven, not world-driven. Well, Elder Scrolls is world-driven. And that's a big part of the problem. And part of the problem with that, and not just Red Dead, but fucking 5-star games, is their worlds are set in real life.
Mm-hmm.
And because it's set in real life, you can't create a compelling world that causes problems and issues. Like, in Skyrim, the first town you go to, Riverwood, is plagued by fucking bandits up in the Nordic ruins in the north, right?
Mm.
And that kicks off the entire main quest, and that's like, you walk into the Riverwood Trader, and they're like, God damn it, the fucking bandits broke into our house again and stole the Golden Claw. If only a hero would come save us in true, like, D&D fashion, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what kicks off the game, and you can create a world like that in a fictional universe, while in Red Dead, it's gotta be really realistic, and all of the story comes from real people like it does in real life.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what kind of sucks.
Yeah. Back to the topic of, like, world building and shit, I just, like, whenever I play D&D, I don't ever, like, focus on my character. I want to, like, do things around the world. Mm-hmm. That's a big one. Like, whenever I DM, I have a really hard time making small characters. I think of huge cities, and I think of their politics, and I think how they interact with each other. And I made a shit ton of effort for a campaign I did with Brian where I was DMing, and like, I had all this shit planned, and then the moment he got to the first NPC, it just fell off because I could not make one realistic or, like, not joking.
It was hard for you to make 3-dimensional NPCs. They all came off as 2-dimensional. That played a role to get them to the bigger, more grandeur stuff you had planned.
Yes.
Right.
When a real world building area just has a bunch of characters who are 3-dimensional and everything comes off around it.
Yeah. It's hard. Some people excel at the story building from characters, and other people excel from the world itself. I excel from the world itself, and I have the same problem where I struggle to make the characters super compelling, and, like, the people who can really write a story are people who write a blank slate character who is a certain way because of the environment of the world. I
definitely tried that, and then Brian didn't implement what I was doing when he was DMing.
Yeah, that shit's hard. Like, in Skyrim, your characters are hardy and rough and likely to be alcoholics because it's a fucking cold environment, and
you're the asshole Emerald.
Yeah, like, shit like that. Like, the environment needs to morph somebody, and sometimes in Skyrim it did really well. Like, you know that one chick in the Thieves Guild named Sapphire?
I don't remember.
She's this bitch you meet in the inn in Riften, and she's part of the Thieves Guild, and you straight up you're like, why are you such a bitch? Like, what's your fucking problem? Basically, 'cause she's really aggro to you. And her problem is she was, like, fucking abducted from her family farm as a kid by bandits, and, like, fucking tortured in the woods by all these bandits, and she eventually worked her way into earning their trust. And she proceeded to, like, kill them all in the night and everything, and that's how she earned her freedom after years of, like, basically slavery to these bandits. And, you know, one, for Elder Scrolls, that's some dark shit, right? But two, it explains her whole character super well. And the fact that she wasn't a follower was like, what? Are you fucking kidding me? That's, like, one of the best written backstories I've ever heard in this fucking game. But yeah.
I get really immersed in the Elder Scrolls, but my character would be the type of character, if you ever saw that General Sam video when he played Oblivion, I can't remember the exact name of the character, but his name was like something, it was like Lionel the Red Guard, or Tyrannus the Red Guard, or something like that, and in the comments it was like, they just named him Tyrone the Black Guy.
Tyrannus. That's fucking hilarious. Tyrannus is Tyrone. Because black guards are black people. That's fucking hilarious. Awful.
That would be my character. That'd be my character on accident. While, like, the rest of the Oblivion world's there, you know?
Yeah, right. I see exactly what you're saying. It's funny as hell. Well, you know, General Sam did all of those fucking, he did all of those, little side episodes in Oblivion and Skyrim where he named himself Sheckelstein, and he'd like, I'm
Yeah.
thief guy, or I'm murder guy, or like all this shit.
Yeah, I watched all of those. They're all hilarious.
Yeah, they're awesome. Sadly, I think he had to get rid of some of them because they were racially insensitive to Jewish people.
Oh.
Yeah, stuff like that. Have you seen his 500 subscriber special yet?
No.
Bro, okay, this was like the golden age of General Sam, like where it was the perfect amount of over-editing, but like also him just improving stupid shit.
Yeah.
And he had to take it down because it's dangerous. It's dangerous as shit. But,
it's like when...
Yeah. People re-upload it all the time, though. He took it down, and other people re-upload it all the time, and I'm looking for it.
That was like, he did, the Forest.
Right.
And apparently he took it down and re-uploaded it because Aqua FPS, like, every 5 minutes said the N-word, like, hard R.
Oh, jeez.
Like, and there's still a clip of him, General Sam, saying the N-word in there, not the hard R version.
Yeah.
He's like, I got my Jesus cup. I know my N-word. Jesus got my back.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure, like, YouTube, I'm sure, probably gets really upset at white
Oh,
people
yeah.
for using the N-word or anything and shit. Like,
It's still in there. It's very funny to me. Like,
Well, what do you think of the self-censorship people are having to do, and like these tech companies censoring people so hard and stuff, caring about ad revenue?
well, the issue is YouTube has enough, like, more ads than they do people making content now.
Yeah, and you'd think that would be a problem for them, but instead they continue to just censor the shit out of people.
Censoring people, like, there's good censoring and then there's just pointless censoring. Like, YouTube has a kids section called YouTube Kids, and you don't need to make everyone on the regular YouTube section ineligible to say the word fuck. You shouldn't lose your revenue because you're a little bit obscene. I mean, obviously, if you start saying super racially insensitive things, you should lose your revenue a little bit.
Right.
Or, like, if you're trying to, like, call someone out or start a fight with someone, but, like, just being, like, playing a game, like, if I played Tarkov and I kept saying fuck, and I lost my revenue because of that, that would be heinous.
Well, and that kind of stuff does happen to people on YouTube sometimes. Like, the YouTube censorship is so bad that before I even started making any content, which obviously it's not like I fucking made it or something, right? Like, I got 32 subscribers, but, and I still don't know if the shadow ban is in full effect either. Like, I don't know if I'm able to get any views after I post what we're talking about now. I just waited a long time, and I'm going to see how it goes. But, well,
I hope it goes well.
Oh yeah, me too. I've got a plan to try to fix that. But like, for instance, I don't ever plan on making I don't ever plan on making revenue from YouTube ever. I don't think it'll ever be profitable. I think the way I'd make revenue is turning it into a streaming thing, or turning it into a Patreon thing.
The issue is, in order to maintain revenue from YouTube in a consistent way, you'd have to be a personality and not be your...
Yeah, you can't be genuine. Which, if you are a personality, you're not likable or relatable either.
And being genuine when you're talking politics, you're going to lose half your audience automatically.
Oh, yeah, exactly. And, I'm trying to get a niche group of people anyway, like the kind of people who listen to Joe Rogan. So it's yeah, I'm not really concerned about that. I just know YouTube's never going to make me revenue, and if I'm going to make revenue, I'm going to make it off of, like, Patreon or people reaching out to me wanting their ads read, right? And stuff like that. But that requires getting a big-ass audience first.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and, I'm trying to work on that. I'm trying to work on some social media stuff, but something I really have to do is I have to get a podcast hosting thing. It's, there's podcast hosting services where they give you an RSS feed, which is like kind of your own internet domain. It's the best way I can explain it. And
if you ever invite me on, right, and immediately the first words are, this podcast was sponsored by Raid Shadow Legend, I would immediately just do stuff to get you taken down.
That's fine. Raid Shadow Legends is paying for that video, so I don't care. But, what was I going to say? Oh, but yeah, so the podcast hosting thing, one, it benefits me because it like kind of guarantees people will see it because they kind of advertise it for you.
Mm-hmm.
And two, they will upload it to all of the different platforms. So like, if this shadow ban thing isn't lifted soon, I'm probably going to do the podcast hosting thing really soon because I've been driving myself nuts not doing the podcast over the last bit because I love having these conversations.
Yeah, I mean, if you get shadow banned and there's no way to get past it, I would just create a new account and re-upload all your stuff while it's still kind of new.
That could be possible. Yeah, that is a way to handle it. But I'm also going to move to SoundCloud and Spotify and all these other platforms and proceed that way. I do have plans, like, after I move out and I've got a little bit more free time and stuff, I plan on making a gaming channel as well, and I plan on getting a capture card so I can record our conversations on Xbox, because that's what inspired the whole podcast to begin with.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, and stuff like that. Like, all of that's in the works. It's just there's financial constraints. Like, it's a $20 a month bill if I do this podcast hosting thing.
Yeah, that's not something you should be paying for unless
it's paying for itself, which it won't at first, which is what kind of sucks. But, you know, you might have to spend some investment money, and we'll see how that goes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I need more equipment. Capture cards are expensive.
I would suggest getting, like, a podcast mic, because this one's treating me really well.
Oh, yeah, you are rocking a whole mic stand setup and everything now, aren't you?
Kinda. It's not like a real mic stand, it's just a Blue Yeti on, like, a little...
Well, you know, if I live on my own and I've got like or not a recording studio, but I got like an office room or something, I could have some real people over for podcasts and stuff too. Like turn it into an actual event, kind of like me and Ryan were doing when we first started. That'd be kind of cool. But yeah. You there? Oh, he just fell out of the Discord. Okay. Let's check on this. You good?
The moment I said something, it went out.
Yeah, I heard this weird noise come from your damn mic for a second.
I like tapped it. I'm like, yeah, it's treating me really well, and then it went out, and it wouldn't re-pick up my audio, and I'm like, fuck.
It went poof. All right. What time in the video was? I don't think I need to edit that. It was only a couple seconds. Yeah, we're fine.
Yeah. Oh well.
Yeah, the podcast is really fucking raw. The way I treat it with that kind of stuff. Like, if somebody like drops out of the Discord for less than a minute, I'm not editing that shit out. I don't.
Hell no.
Yeah.
Oopsies! I know not to tap my mic now.
Yeah. There was this one thing that I had to edit really bad. There was like one time where I had to edit somebody's like straight up speech because I was worried about how it would be construed a little bit. But when me and Badger did our last episode, because sometimes Badger's like the one guy that I have a shooting the shit episode with constantly, not just one, because me and him will get like real deep in philosophy and shit. But he like had like a 2-second delay on me the entire time.
Oh my god.
Yeah, and actually we somehow kept up conversation fine the whole time. But it led to him sounding like he was a fucking Nazi sympathizer or something for half a second. Because he was talking about how republics and certain kinds of governments and stuff, they like attack other countries to give to their citizens, and it's why they're considered some of the happiest countries, because they're kind of like pirate countries to a certain extent. And he was like, it's great for the people that live in them and everything. And I'm like, well, you could say something like that about the fucking Nazis. If you were German, it was great to be a Nazi, but if you were anything else, it was fucking awful. And I was saying that was bad. And Macmillan, I just did that again. God damn it. Hold up.
Write down the time.
Yeah. 1 hour, 23 minutes. All right, so...
It's been an hour and 23. Oh my.
Yep. So, Badger... right after I said that thing about the Nazis, him not hearing me because he's got a delay, right? Says, I see this as a complete win, or some shit. Yeah. And I just like in the episode, I'm kind of just sitting there like dumbfounded, like, bro, did you just say that on the podcast?
Hell yeah.
I'm like, damn, I know you got some rough opinions, but I didn't know you were a fucking Nazi, bro. And
that's got to be a very bad.
Oh yeah, I've got a recording of it in my phone. I'll send it to you sometime because it's fucking hilarious. While I was editing it, I took a video of it and sent it to him, and he just face palmed super hard. And I removed that from it. And for anybody listening, he hates the Nazis, and he's not pro that at all. It just sounded like he was, and it was fucking hilarious. It was killing me.
I'm dying. That sounds.
Yeah, no, it was so funny.
That sounds
so
like
funny.
a comedy movie. Like
Oh,
their
yeah.
mic cuts in. Like, and I, on the record, support the nut.
Oh yeah, it sounded like that to a certain extent.
I see this as an absolute win.
Oh
That's
yeah,
hilarious.
it was really bad. It was really bad. But I
Oh,
edited that out, and that was like the only content edit I've ever made on the entire podcast.
that's good. That's
Yeah, yeah. Oh, you know how I was talking, like, I'm diverting the subject super hard now. But you know how I was
Yeah.
talking about, like, it's fascinating how some people can experience the same issues or hardships in life and come to two completely different conclusions.
yeah.
Yeah, like you know, I'm a pretty objectivistic, like, I want to do everything myself. I want to be completely independent
Mhm.
kind of person. And you know, you've got Anthony, who's like hardcore community oriented and wants like everybody to band together, and like, he's a communist. It's literally in the name, commune, right? And what's weird is we've come to those conclusions based off of like very similar life experiences. Like we were both heavily bullied in school, and like it really fucked us up and had us develop like super bad social issues and social tendencies and stuff. And my whole like demeanor and like philosophy in life was I got to take care of myself. I got to make myself strong enough to not let this happen again. I've got to become scarier than the people I'm scared of type of mentality. Wow.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean I want to become the bully. Don't anybody misconstrue that. It means I want to be stronger than the bully, right?
You have to be responsible for your own safety, no matter what.
That's what I wanted to view it as, right? And that I think that's the conclusion I've mostly come to with that kind of shit. And there's still some long-lasting effects from those social issues. Like, I'm not always the brightest or best in some social situations, and I really struggle with eye contact with people, like really bad, because I was in situations where I was just terrified to look people in the eye, either because of the kind of authority they had over me or how they'd bully me.
I had to deal with that issue really badly because for a year there I had really long hair.
Mm-hmm.
And anytime I would go out places, old people would just fucking like eyeball me, like stare into my soul, and they wouldn't stop until I looked them into the eyes.
Yeah, until you stared them back, basically.
Yeah.
Right.
I had to get over that. Of course I cut my hair and all that. That was a phase. I went through a hippie phase.
Oh, plus, you probably just, even if you could handle the negative attention, that doesn't mean you want it.
No, I definitely don't.
Exactly. But, like, and you know, Jake went through a similar situation, too, where he was bullied super hard, and his conclusion was, I'm going to be the bully, because if I bully, then I can't get bullied, kind of thing.
That's not true. You'll just end up lonely.
I'd say that's true, but that's still how he came to that conclusion, right? And then Anthony's like, I was bullied, therefore there should be rules in place to ensure I can never be bullied.
No.
Right. But you see, 3 people all experienced very similar situations and came to 3 drastically different conclusions.
The conclusion I came through is I would just like to behave how I am and just make friends with people. Because certain people who bully they're going through that road that we talked about, and they're just at a bad point in it, and they need to learn. And I'd rather them learn from someone accepting them and teaching them than...
Right.
That's just how I viewed it, because I grew up and I was kind of bullying people, and someone did that to me. They taught me a little bit. They're like, you can't be doing this to people.
Mm-hmm. No, I totally get what you're saying.
And
I just find it fascinating, not just the diversity in people physically, but mentally. It's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
The kind of different conclusions like. Sometimes it's great, sometimes it's fucking awful. Because, you know, the facts will be staring you in the face, and because of people's diversity and opinion, like, some people want to handle it in asinine fashions.
Yeah. You could have a whole group of people get presented the same scenario and come up with 20 billion different solutions.
And only, like, 1 or 2 of them be applicable or valid.
And 1 or 2 of them will be heinous.
Yeah. For every good idea, there's probably 5 that are bad and 1 that's evil.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, you know, I learned something about Hitler, actually, the other day. I watched this documentary on Netflix called "How to Become a Tyrant" or something is what it's called.
Oh, I saw that pop up in my feed.
Yeah, it's actually really good. Like you'd probably really like it. But Hitler apparently like with the uniform and the way he dressed and even his mustache and everything, that's like
Mhm.
apparently how working men looked in
Oh,
Germany. Yeah, and that was part of his charisma is everybody thought he was like an average person joining the like standing up for them. That's
my
why
brain
yeah.
connected to very bad things. We talked about Trump
Oh,
talking and
yep. That's why a lot of people were willing to call him Hitler just because he Hitler and Trump. I don't think Trump's Hitler, by the way, for anybody listening. But Trump
I don't
and
either.
Hitler both vocalized their opinions to the same group. So that is a fascinating similarity. And thankfully, most of the time on the left, they weren't intelligent enough to. They were intelligent enough to see that. They weren't intelligent enough to articulate that.
Yeah,
Yeah, but that's
that
why
just
that's why a lot of people are turned off by Trump because so many people look at the polls, or not the polls. That's the wrong. That's from 1984. That's where that terminology comes from. Um, not the polls. They look at the common people as a tool or a weapon ready to be pointed at somebody all the time, which is true, especially in our
I
society. There's just two groups of them now. So yeah.
I had a really like polarized dream about that, and I felt really shitty when I woke up.
What was your what was
It
your
was like I had a dream where I was like, I'm going to be a martyr. I'm going to do stupid shit, and I'm polarizing the people. And I woke up, and I'm like, what the fuck? What the hell? I'm like, I'm starting a terrorist group in my dreams.
dude? I had the scariest fucking dream a few months ago, or a little bit more than a few months ago. It was near the end of Trump's first term. Okay,
Yeah.
and for those listening, and like you know, I'm a fan of Trump not because of who he is as a person, really, or even because of a lot of his policies. I really just liked his economic policies because
Hmm.
I view the world with money. For somebody who's bad at math, I really have a good understanding of economics and money a lot of the time.
Hmm.
And I think most of society's problems go away if the economy's good and if the average person is able to provide for themselves.
Hmm.
And the reason I hate like a lot of left-leaning stuff isn't because I inherently hate their goals or motivations a lot of the time.
It's to strip the economy completely.
It's yeah, it's because they just through their policies they just always end up fucking the economy over because they don't think about the cost on things a lot of the time.
Yeah.
And yeah, and because of that, I had this terrible dream where like it's kind of out there, so just hear me out a little bit. But like it was while I was unemployed work or at school when I had this dream.
Uh huh.
But I had this dream where Donald Trump actually like resigned out of office near the end of his presidency instead of just getting voted out.
Uh huh.
He resigned and he said, "Fuck this, I'm done. I don't want to do it anymore." And like first I was like, "Whoa, that's kind of weird." And then like the dream kind of fast forward to me and my dad are working. Like my dad's got a really high level like kind of corporate position now. He
Uh
didn't. He
huh.
wasn't when I was younger. When I was born, we were poor as fuck, and he's worked his way up a ladder. But like me and my dad were working like shitty minimum wage jobs in the gas station down the street from our house,
Oh my.
and it was like the best we could do, type of shit. And
Oh.
it's like third shift too, so we're working like the shitty part of that as well. And
You didn't have a
I'm
dream. You had a nightmare.
yeah, and he's like working the cash register. He doesn't own it, by the way. We're just employees of this place. He's working the cash register. I'm like stocking shelves and sweeping up and stuff. And he hands me a bag of trash to take outside to like behind the gas station dumpster. I go
Hmm.
out there, I throw the bag in the dumpster, and I turn around, and there's like five guys in full blown military fatigues, not like bulletproof vests and backpacks and stuff, but they're wearing like the casual but still camouflage like boots, pants, and like over jacket and
Yeah.
everything. And there's like five of them, and they've like totally surrounded me. And I'm like, what the fuck? What are you guys doing? And like they don't look presentable. Like one of them's even just like wearing sneakers with the rest of the military garb, and only one of them has like a gun, and it's not even like an AR. It's like a wooden stock shotgun or something, and the other ones have like baseball bats and like tie rods and all this kind of
Oh
shit.
no.
Yeah, and they're like about to jump me, and I freak out and run around the corner into the gas station. And I scream at my dad. I'm like, "Bro, we're we've got company, like we've got to do something, and uh, me and my dad get our asses kicked, and they rob the gas station of everything it's got and dip. And there's like, I think it was after I like basically got killed in the dream that I woke up.
Oh.
That happens to me a lot in dreams. I die and wake up. But the way I interpreted that is society and the economy got so bad that there was a martial law instance.
Oh.
And it got so bad that the martial law enforcement, like the military, had succumbed to banditry, basically.
Yeah, I mean, the issue is the armed forces, because they're armed, will...
Well, if they're not provided for and fed or paid, they're going to do stuff like that.
Yeah, no matter what country.
No matter what country, right? And that's how I interpreted the dream. Was we fell into such a depression that the military basically became bandits, and that group of military personnel bandited us.
That would take a lot. That would take a hell of a lot for the United States military to turn into bandits.
Oh yeah, it would be crazy. Actually, I don't know about that. I think mass scale failure of agricultural infrastructure.
That would definitely do something. But
that, and if the entire military was turned into the armed forces, if we became a police state like that.
Oh yeah.
If they were, because we don't have nearly enough military personnel to properly police the entire country.
Stuff like that.
Especially here in the Midwest and in my area where it's a bit more rural. You know what I'm saying? Like, I could see that happening at some point.
Stuff like that is the reason I'm so pro Second Amendment.
So you can defend yourself?
You can defend yourself, and the United States has the largest standing army of hunters.
Oh yeah, and it's not even just that. It's like, when shit breaks down, the people who are supposed to protect you are the ones who are going to rob you.
Yes.
Yes. They're the ones with the power to do it, therefore they'll do it. Me and Austin got into this crazy conversation the other day. I don't know if you were there, but like, I don't think pure anarchy exists. Because even if the government breaks down, even if there's no rules, even if there's no formal authority, there's always somebody with a gun or somebody who's stronger than somebody else who can enforce authority on somebody.
All it takes is for one person to find an empty military base and to fortify that, and to get 2 or 3 people to like get weapons.
Well,
and build a
then
community.
It's not anarchy anymore. Now it's a warlord.
The issue is
anarchy is nothing but a power vacuum. There is no such thing as true lawless society.
Yeah, there's no true anarchy unless you're on like a video game, to be honest.
Right. And then on top of that, if somebody has the power to project to kill somebody else or take from somebody else, then it's still not anarchy. There's still a governing body. It's whoever's the most powerful.
Think about whenever we do like an ARC server, or, like people playing Rust. It starts out pure anarchy, and immediately people start making teams to get power.
Oh yeah, instantaneously. Anarchy is nothing but a power vacuum. There is no such thing as pure anarchy. And that's how I fucking described it to people, and some people agreed with me and some people disagreed. But when that conversation came up, that would have been a great fucking time to have a capture card and record that.
Oh,
shit.
Yeah,
I mean, exactly. Need to get one.
I mean, I guess you can consider anarchy the complete, like, if there's like a low power and it keeps getting shifted constantly, that could be, in my opinion, anarchy too. But
yeah, but what I was saying is pure anarchy means no rules, right?
Yeah, that doesn't exist.
Isn't somebody somewhere at some time determining the rules all the time, including people on yourself? Like I enforce rules on myself, therefore there's no anarchy within myself even, let alone...
You would have to be fucking feral.
Yeah, you'd have to be animals, but still, one animal is still stronger than another, therefore there's authority, therefore there's no anarchy.
Yeah, because there's hierarchy in pretty much any intelligent animal species.
If there's all government is formal hierarchy rather than natural hierarchy.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, anarchy can't exist, because hierarchies are natural.
And that's...
Right.
The reason I think communism will fail is because the natural hierarchy will come out eventually.
It always does. Actually, I don't think there's ever been a time in human history, except in very small enclosed controlled spaces, that it was actually community-driven rather than somebody on top.
You would have to go into gene control.
Well, yeah, you'd have to make everybody as docile and controllable as possible, but then there's still somebody in charge. So it's like that still wouldn't work because it's still not
Yeah.
communism then. It's just a more effective or not autocracy. It's it is actually. It's a more effective
To do
autocracy.
fascism.
Yeah, it's more fascism than communism. There's never been an actually communist society on Earth.
In order to create the hive mind, you'd have to have the hive mind.
Yeah, exactly. And then even situations where it was super communal, like some Native American, like northern Native American societies and stuff, they still had chieftains. They still had wars with each other. They still had tribal land. They still had all
Well,
of this stuff.
the issue is no matter what we do, there's going to be an outside threat.
Yeah, right, which requires power to be shifted somewhere so that somebody can have the nuclear football to kill the threat. That's always what it's about. Here.
That's why I'm...
Yeah. There's this dilemma, right?
I really hope there's aliens. I also kind of don't. I don't want to get fucking murdered by laser beams in the sky, but...
Right.
I also don't want us to be unchecked forever.
There's a paradox to the alien thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
If there's aliens who are highly advanced and capable of interstellar travel, we likely don't have anything they want, therefore don't have to fear them.
Mm-hmm.
Because they probably have already obtained it if they're at that level of interstellar capability.
Mm-hmm.
That's the hopeful side of it. The negative side of it is Earth has some kind of rare resource that to us isn't rare. And we're ground
Iron
zero.
doesn't exist anywhere.
Yeah, exactly. And we're ground zero for these people just freaking taking it from us. That's all possible. But yeah, there's that thought process.
Dirt doesn't exist. What?
Yeah. Just something that, like, a lot of people suggest that it's water. That because Earth has so many oceans, people would want our water or something.
Maybe it's carbon.
Could be carbon. Well,
that'd be your universe.
It depends on who you ascribe to on how alien life exists. Like, I believe life can exist in multiple ways, but I do believe that the most common way would be carbon-based.
Yeah, I know, but I'm saying, like, what if everything we know is carbon because we're the only place that has it? Like, that could be a...
Right, and that is a possibility, and that could be it as well.
Everything we know is saying otherwise, but it's like, it's one of those things where you won't know unless you know.
Yeah, you don't know if maybe it's just our corner of the galaxy that's all carbon-based and nowhere else. And that's what's really scary. If you come across an alien species that is so different than you biologically, they might not even consider you alive. Kind of like the way we look at plants. Like, we call them alive, but we don't treat them as living beings.
Hell yeah.
We treat them as something to be torn out of the ground and turned into something we need. It would be terrifying to come across a higher level species that just look at us like natural entities rather than like people.
Yeah, that would... Or gas.
Yep. Like, gaseous beings would totally look at us as just not people.
If any of that stuff exists. There's also the other end of the coin where nothing exists and we're...
the only ones.
That's scary. That's...
Well, what's okay about that, what sucks about it in our lifetime is we'll never experience galactic diversity. Right?
Mm-hmm.
But what is cool about that is we'll make it. We'll make the galactic diversity. This is something people never talk about if, like, we're the only ones out there. All it takes is for a group of humans to live on another planet for 2 generations, and they won't be normal humans anymore. They will have adapted to that environment instead. Now all of a sudden you've got a different group of people.
All I think of is the fucking... On iFunny... Oh god, I just admit I went on iFunny. They're racist now.
Are they racist? I don't know, man.
iFunny is definitely racist. I go on iFunny every once in a while. I saw a meme. It was like the first like astronauts into space, like to Mars. They're like, "There's no Bill of Rights up here. What are you gonna do, N-word?"
That's so screwed up.
Start terraforming.
Jeez.
God, that's scary to think about too. Like,
well, it's scary to think about how there's no laws in the middle of the ocean if you're on a boat. Let alone if you
go into space.
Go to another planet. Like, bro, that's terrifying.
The law up there is survive.
Yeah, exactly. That is actually concerning.
And most of the time, survival means not getting rid of your fellow man.
Yeah.
But there's instances where, like, you could, and most people, like, given the opportunity, like, will fend for themselves completely.
Yeah, no, I agree.
And the people who won't exist for very longer.
Yeah. Well, there's this thought experiment. It's from Fallout 3. It's a DLC in Fallout 3 called The Pit. Do you know of that?
I haven't played that one.
Okay, so for those listening, because this is actually like a big part of we can't just like nerd out like we did about the Bethesda conversation before. I got to go into specifics now for the subject matter of the episode. But for those listening, Fallout 3 is a post-apocalyptic video game. It's free roam. It's based on decisions you make. The outcome of the game is based on the decisions you make with the characters in the game. Kind of like Dungeons and Dragons. So this add-on to the game called The Pit. It's post-apocalyptic future Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh is this post-apocalyptic city where the ground level of the city is in this radioactive haze, and anybody who's in it for too long a period of time becomes mutated and grotesque and kind of loses their humanity. While the city above and the skyscrapers and in these skyways and everything are ruled by these tyrannical raiders and this guy named Asher who controls all of Pittsburgh, and there's this hierarchy where they get to live up top and live radiation free while they force this slave force to work in the fog below. And that's how it all works. And what Asher has done was he created this slave force and added law and order to Pittsburgh, but also proceeded to basically sacrifice these slaves to the fog and let them become these things called troglodytes, which are the mutated humans. But by doing this, he got the steel manufactories in Pittsburgh to start working again. He brought industry back to the nuclear wasteland.
Oh my.
Right. And a big part of the problem that people have to answer as the main character is, do I join the Raiders and let them continue this in the name of progress, or do I let the slaves overturn the Raiders, kill all the Raiders, and the steel manufacturing at Pittsburgh stops? And society goes backwards a little bit. Not, like, morally it's going backwards if you let it continue, because slavery, right? But scientifically and industry-wise it goes backwards if you don't let it continue. And that's part of the moral dilemma. But the moral dilemma even further is Asher is actually looking for a cure to the troglodytes. And while he's looking for the cure, he deems slavery as a necessary evil until he finds it. And, I was talking about this with Badger and Anthony and a few other people, and I was like, I don't think I'm not Machiavellian enough for this. The ends don't justify the means. I'm not okay with temporary slavery for future happiness. I'm not okay with human sacrifice, basically, even if it guarantees a better outcome. And, Anthony said this thing where he was like, people will... The vast majority of humanity is okay with submitting their rights to anybody as long as it guarantees their safety, is what he said. And I was like, whoa!
No?
Yeah, I was like, hell no, that's not true, like, at all, especially not for me. And, Badger was kind of like, I don't know, man, the ends might justify the means as long as it's guaranteed we figure out how to cure them, is kind of how he felt about it, as long as it's super temporary. And, there were a bunch of people in the middle about this kind of stuff, and see, to me, like, I couldn't enslave anybody for ever. Like, I could never, not even for a second, would I deem enforcing arbitrary rules on somebody else as necessary for society. I think society's doomed from the start if you do that, in my opinion. And it's a pretty crazy thought experiment.
That's a really hard dilemma.
Oh yeah, it's really hard.
I don't know if I can give like a straight answer because slavery is hella fucking wrong, but like.
But if you bring
the industry
back to the wasteland, you're talking about building railroads again. You're talking about building pipelines. You're talking about building buildings that can withstand the radiation. You're talking about manufacturing new firearms to kill the fucking mutants that are harassing your town. Like I get that.
Honestly, the way I see it, I think those slaves have a really good chance of dying in the wasteland in the first place.
So you think that because the environment is so terrible to begin with, it's not that much different than the pit.
Yeah, I mean, it would be a very, very, like, close answer, but I think slavery would be the proper... Because there's a chance at a cure, you're gonna have to just take that risk and ruin people's lives to try and bring back the quality of life for everyone. Because if you don't, and everything fails, and the wasteland stays like that forever, everyone has a shitty life.
So you're Machiavellian in that sense. You believe that the ends justify the means.
Kinda. It's a very, very hard...
Oh, yeah.
Hard...
That's why it's a good game. That's why it's a good story.
I couldn't do that to my family or myself or anyone. I know,
Right.
I'd probably not be able to sleep at night after it either.
So you believe it's a terrible thing, but you think it's a terrible thing that's necessary.
Yes, like awful, like
taxes.
And some taxes are necessary.
Well, I think taxation's necessary even for me, but I also consider it theft, therefore it's evil. I consider it to be a necessary theft. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But what really bothers me is the government will steal from you with one hand and then act like they're doing you a favor with the other. And
My issue is...
I'm like, nah, it's theft. Act like it's theft and try to be more respectful.
They tax me for my community, and then they use the money I do to build a bomb to kill one person across seas.
Right. They tax you for your community and then use that money for something else. And then on top of that, if your community doesn't really serve you or you don't like your community very much, like me, then it's like you just feel like you're getting stolen from so much worse.
Yeah.
I hate community,
how much,
like so much.
And the amount they take is awful.
Yeah. Yep. Well, that's the idea of trickle-down economics. Take less so people can make more. Therefore, you end up making more in the long run because there's more pockets you're taking from.
Yeah.
Skim off the top, don't take the whole fucking thing. If you skim off the top, there becomes more sources for you to skim off the top from. Exponential growth. That's the idea, at least, of trickle-down economics.
I'm not as good as I'm not as good at economics as I'd like to think I am, but
I get that. It's one of the duality of man things I deal with on a regular basis. I'm so bad at math, but I'm pretty well versed economically for a 20-year-old that doesn't have a college education.
I just wish we had some sort of backing to the dollar.
Oh yeah, you wish it wasn't fiat currency?
Yeah.
Well, for a long time it was actually the gold standard.
Yeah, I know, but the idea that a coupon at McDonald's to give you a free Big Mac is worth more than $1 in your hand
is weird. It's weird.
I don't want to think about the U.S. falling, but it's a very real possibility because any nation can fall any day at any time.
Well, that's what's good about fiat currency is we all give it value.
Mm-hmm.
As long as we all still value it, as long as all of us almost become nauseous at the concept of $1 million or $1 billion in the back of our head, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's not going to fail.
No, I'm just saying the whole nation is... You're not going to get anything for your money if, for some reason, the United States fell tomorrow.
Oh, yeah. No, that would be bad. That's what's really bad about the United States specifically. If we fell, our fiat currency supports probably more than
everyone.
50% of the world. Yeah. If our economy, actually crashed tomorrow, not a depression, I mean, actually ceased to exist tomorrow, the rest of the world would follow suit.
If for some reason Jeff Bezos just woke up and was like, I don't want any of my money going out, everyone's fired.
Yeah, if he...
I'm liquidating my company and I'm putting it all in the bank offshore.
You know
my family's...
What would happen that would be scary if that actually happened tomorrow is he couldn't do it. The government would step in and seize his company.
You could certainly try, and that would cause a fucking commotion.
Oh,
and the issue is the notion of it.
Ever, but they would do it.
They'd
nationalize this country immediately because he would be ruin 20% of our economy or some shit.
The notion of it would trickle throughout the United States, and people would start I need to save money now because my money could not be worth
anything.
Hearing that would cause fucking pandemonium all over the United States.
Oh yeah.
The government would try and seize it, and by that time the damage could have already been done.
Yeah, the stock market would crash as soon as he announced it or as soon as the government tried to seize it. The stock market would crash. The amount of people enterprising would cease to exist because nobody wants to enterprise just for the government to have the power to nationalize and seize your company.
And then most likely the government would stop that, and then
every rich person would try to do it too, to hedge their bets and no longer operate in a totalitarian economy. They just want to turn it all into cash immediately, cash we don't have. Especially when you realize I think 70% of the United States currency is digital anyway. It's not actual physical currency you can hold in your hand.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, slippery slope, man. Slippery slope.
Or the other billionaires could try and pick up his company.
That too, and they might, but they would be appointed by the state. And now you're looking at a mega corporation as your government instead of a representative democracy, which is terrifying.
The issue is the thought that one of the billionaires could just wake up tomorrow, like just fucking like have a brain fart and decide they,
yeah. What happens when Musk and Bezos get senile? What happens when they get so old that they start making stupid decisions and their boards don't have the power to vote them out?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, and, you see a little bit of that from Elon Musk every once in a while. He's not as large part of an economy as Bezos is, but
all I think of is the TikTok. He was like, good financial decisions. Every time Musk announces anything about Dogecoin or Bitcoin on Twitter, buy Dogecoin because it goes down, and someone invested their entire college career on it and lost it all.
Oh, he did?
Yeah, he lost like 90%.
Well, for that, there's also a guy who invested all of it and made millions.
Yeah,
he took out like 5
plays it down to another.
Yeah.
Actually, there was the one dude who did the GameStop stuff. He kept going up. He was like a millionaire, and then he lost all of it.
Oh, yeah. Somebody held the entire time, and I heard about that, and that was sad.
I would have sold like the moment it was worth $1 million. I'm comfortable with $1 million.
Yeah, same. Well, I would have sold it, gotten $1 million, and then bought something that I knew was going to go up. Something that was too expensive for me to buy before.
I would have sold, got the $1 million, paid my taxes, and then like invested elsewhere or started a company or something.
That's
but
what
like,
I'm saying. Yeah.
I'm just saying, like, the risk of over $1 million is too much for me.
Oh yeah, especially with the small time money we deal with on a regular basis. $1 million could free us.
$1 million, literally, you could work a 10-hour job like a week as long as you're good with finances and probably retire. You wouldn't have the best life, but
Oh yeah. Not just that, with $1 million, I'd probably immediately buy a good house, pay it off completely, rent that out to somebody else, and live off the fucking monthly rent of that house.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe 3 of them with $1 million.
Landlord.
Yeah, I would go landlord immediately and invest in real estate, and that's how I would live.
That was another funny meme I saw. It was like everyone voted to raise property taxes, and someone was like, "My rent went up. Why?"
Because I raised fucking property taxes, you bitch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
God, that's a scary
people
thought.
don't understand basic shit about economics like that. Like, people in the cities will be like, oh, okay, let's all vote unanimously to lower the, like, let's put a price ceiling on rent, right?
Mm-hmm.
Everybody does that, so all of the landlords have to charge less for rent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The thing that really got me about economics that confused me was I was working at Walmart, right, when Trump first got elected in, and he did his huge tax reform thing where he got millions off for every major corporation. And that in turn made it so that Walmart employees got an extra like $3 an hour almost.
Oh, yeah.
And that made everyone in that store have more money and to spend elsewhere. And then slowly, over the course of that time, the economy adjusted up, and Walmart wasn't raising their wages again, and they ended up making it so that the people who worked there had more money, but there were way less people working there.
Yep.
And just seeing that unfold, like, before my eyes was fucking crazy, because they used to have every lane open almost.
Yeah, and that's every Walmart now as well.
Mm-hmm.
Well, a lot of that, sadly, it has little to do with Walmart not being willing to raise the wages. A lot of it is the kind of people who try to work at Walmart. And, me and you both work at Walmart. I'm not talking shit about us. They can't maintain employees at Walmart because people don't show up to work. People don't, like... And
the main issue...
Walmart fucking sucks, but you still...
The issue with Walmart is they don't maintain employees because they don't offer anything that would maintain them. They don't spend the money to make it so that people stay there their whole lives.
Well, right, yeah, like working at Walmart, unless you get up into corporate or unless you're like the store manager, you can't really make a career out of that.
Store managers don't stay there.
I know they don't. If you make your way up to store manager, you get moved around constantly.
If you make your way up to store manager, you got 3 or 4 years at most, and then you're fired.
Yeah, I know.
It's a good run while it lasts, though.
Yeah, and they will pay you a lot while you're store manager.
That's 6 figures a year.
Yep. And that helps your resume for going somewhere else. But
yeah, just Walmart is the best at like cycling through employees, and that's very.
Well, that's part of what's wrong with Amazon as well. Bezos has a fundamental ideology that humans are naturally lazy. Therefore, he wants to constantly cycle through employees that haven't seen that kind of money before, so that you get really good effort out of them at first, and then after they become comfortable, get rid of them and get a new one.
Mm-hmm.
However, when you're in a labor shortage because nobody wants to fucking work, that doesn't totally work.
Yeah, I had that issue with Walmart because I was making $7 an hour, right? And all of a sudden I'm making 12, which is almost double, and I was busting my fucking ass.
Right.
And then the moment I got comfortable with it, I got shit canned.
Yep. That happens, and yeah. Now, what's fucked is the economy scaling up the way it did.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't like that was positive inflation, because as economies get larger and more money is added into the environment, like positive inflation happens when everybody's wages go up at the same time.
Yes.
It means the GDP went up, basically. And then there's negative inflation where you add money to the economy unjustly. And
yeah,
that's we don't have enough money to pay our federal bills, we're going to print more money.
That's a no now.
That's negative inflation. That's unnatural negative inflation.
Thankfully, the U.S. has a really good track record of paying their bills.
Yeah, thankfully. We have a ridiculous amount of credit because we pay all of our credited bills on time. We're in a crazy amount of debt, but it's the same way as suburban families in debt, because they don't technically own their house or any of their cars because they have mortgages and bills on everything.
The issue is debt is a very slippery slope for everyone.
It is. It's a very slippery slope, but sadly it's what allows us to live such luxurious lives because our economy and our luxuries expanded way faster than the actual size and scale of the economy.
Mm-hmm.
We figured out how to mass produce cars faster than our economy got the average person to be able to afford one.
Yeah.
Almost no one in our country can afford a brand new car, but you can take out a line of credit and you can afford the monthly bill on that brand new car.
That's why houses are weird to me, because rent's higher than a mortgage payment and everything combined.
In the long run it is, yeah. For sure.
But you also need to prove that you can pay that bill for 30 plus years.
Yep.
And not destroy the property while you...
Yeah, it's a difficult, weird situation. But there's a lot of money to be made there as well. But the reason rent's so expensive is because, landlords have to have a reason to want... There would be no places to rent if you didn't have incentive for people to buy houses and rent them out to people. You get what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Because that's cheaper than renting.
Exactly.
And some people don't want to buy a house. They just want to live on them.
Some people don't want to deal with making sure the fucking water heater doesn't go out. Some people don't want to deal with property values changes. Some people don't want to deal with any of that. Therefore,
I don't want to deal with it. I don't want to deal with it, but I also don't want to pay double.
I don't want to deal with it, but at the same time, I'd rather deal with that than the ground I'm standing on not be mine.
Yeah.
Like that's why property taxes are the most evil form of taxation in our entire government.
Oh my god,
because
yes.
It's the idea that you'll never own your property. Ever. It's not yours, no matter what. Regardless of whether or not you owe a bank or anything, it's not yours because the government can just take it whenever they want if you can't pay them.
I am spoiled as fuck in living out in the county. I really, really like my privacy, so having an apartment next to a shit ton of people, that just instantly is a turnoff.
I can do an apartment as long as it's closed off to others. That actually doesn't bother me too much. I wouldn't want to live there my whole life. But to start, I'd be okay with that. But it would never not nag at me in the back of my head to know that apartment isn't my fucking apartment.
I just don't like the idea of that. If I'm being a little bit loud, people will just knock on my door from 2 feet away like, hey, shut the fuck up.
Yeah, that shit would also bother me. It's like...
I like being in my own house where I can scream as loud as I want, as long as I'm not outside. No one's gonna hear it.
I like that shit too, and that's my goal. But I'll settle with an apartment if it means I got more independence in the short run. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I'm so greedy for that independence. I want it so bad, and I'm
I
struggling to obtain.
I want the independence so bad too, but I need to pay all my bills off first.
Yeah.
Because of the pandemic, I was not making as much money as I should.
I get that.
And
You had some credited shit that you had
slippery slope, my guy.
Yeah, I get that.
I got in a used car payment and immediately got let go from my job.
Oh fuck. Yeah, I think I remember that. Damn.
So I was like, oh god damn, I gotta work.
Oh yeah. Like, money is always stressing me out so much. Like,
that's why I'm so happy about this new job. I'm not gonna go that.
Yeah.
Go for that on a podcast. That's.
No, I get what you're saying. Like, don't talk about where you're working or anything, but like, yeah, it pays way more and it's stable, and I get why you're. Okay.
If you want to visit me at this exact address, come.
Yeah, exactly. That's why you don't want to mess with that.
God damn, I have a very big fear of random people just being like, "Hey, I recognize you. I'm coming to kill you."
You know, man, I do and I don't. Like, I really worry about that happening to my family. Like, if I were to ever get famous indirectly, you know what I'm saying?
I don't have it like that, but the issue is if I decide to stream and become a personality, there's people like, if you heard about what happened to XQC, he had to move out because while he was not there and his girlfriend was not there, someone broke into his house and left him a note that says, "You have something we need, we will take it."
Oh shit.
Or something like that, or come see us. And they kept breaking into his house with like guns and shit.
That's terrifying. Well, see, that's what I worry about. Like what sucks about the streaming thing, and if you actually do become a famous person, is you got to show your face. People have got to know who you are.
Yeah.
And if you do that, it's like, I'm not particularly worried about myself because like I'm a dude and I'll fight rather than flight, you know. But it's like, and I'm personally not all that like afraid of dying, for instance.
I'm afraid of scarring myself.
I'm terrified of something happening to like my girlfriend or something. Like that stuff scares the shit out of me, or my little sisters or something like that. That I couldn't handle.
I have nightmares because I got this concealed carry permit, and I think about defending myself like necessarily, and I always have that dilemma like, can I actually do it? Because the issue is the type of gun I want to carry is a fucking deagle, and if I shoot someone with that, their fucking whole their whole thing's coming off.
Well, you know, it's if somebody's willing to breach that societal contract, that they're safe and you're safe as long as they don't want to cause you harm. You know what I'm saying? If somebody's willing to breach that contract, one of the risks to that is getting shot. So it's like, no, you don't want to be the person to do that, but at the same time, they knew the rules, they chose to play, and you gotta value your own life more than other people's if you didn't do anything wrong.
One of the dilemmas that kind of rose to me getting it is people approaching my car at night.
Really?
They would get pretty close, and I'd just like freak out a little bit, lock my doors, start the car.
Right. Because no, I get what you're
saying. If they're trying to rob me, I'm just fucking backing up over their legs.
Well, plus you had somebody break into your house once.
Yes, I did.
Right?
But I just had that fear that someone's going to come up to my window with like a gun or something.
Yeah. No, I get what you're saying.
And I'll have to defend myself, and there's no like proof of anything.
Right. Yeah, because if you're in your car and somebody came up to you and you just shoot them, then it totally looks like you just drove by somebody.
Yeah.
No, I get what you're saying. Yeah,
I don't want to go to jail for defending myself.
Me either, and that terrifies me these days because it's so easy for that to happen.
And I'm not trying to taxi driver someone with a 357.
Right, exactly.
Oh my god, that's a terrible feeling. And part of me is like, I can do that shit, but the other part of me is like, I'm going to like turn into a schizo the moment I kill someone.
Yeah, you don't. You know, like obviously I don't want to at all. I actually consider life to be a pretty sacred thing, especially human life.
It's sacred until you breach that contract.
If I deemed it necessary, like I feel like if I morally convinced myself that I had to kill somebody, it wouldn't keep me up at night.
Yeah, the issue is sometimes those scenarios happen so fast you can't convince. You just have to do it.
Oh yeah, and see, I don't think it would keep me up at night, like if it was self-defense. But you know, there's two sides to every coin. This will probably be the last thing we go into detail about because it's getting late here.
Yeah.
I got work early tomorrow, but you know, here's an example, a thought exercise, right?
Uh-huh.
You're sleeping in bed with your wife, your kids are sleeping in the other room, and you just heard the fucking front window of like your door break. Somebody just shattered the window,
shotgun.
right? Well, you grab your gun, you run down the stairs. The person's already unlocked the door because they reached their hand in and unlocked it, and they're in your house, right?
Mm-hmm.
You don't know who they are. You don't know what their intention is. All you know is they've broken into the house. Their intentions are likely hostile, and you've got kids and a wife upstairs.
Mm-hmm.
You shoot the fuck out of this person because they're already in your house. There's no chance to warn them or ask them to leave because they're in your fucking house. It's too late, right?
Castle doctrine.
Exactly. So I just shoot the shit out of them. Maybe if there's a lot of distance between us and I can clearly see they're not armed, I ask them to leave, right?
Mm-hmm.
But like for instance, if I turn the corner in my house on an intruder, and
once they break that window, they're not leaving.
Right. Or
your citizen's arrest.
I would try to think about it. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But if I turned the corner and I saw somebody had a weapon, insta dead. They're dead.
Yeah.
They're gonna die because there's no way I'm taking the chance that something's gonna happen to me, which then means something's gonna happen to my family.
I always want to keep a camera on my front door with a speaker.
That would be cool.
Or like one in the living room angled at the front door because depending on how the house is
set up. Right.
I need cameras, but I don't want cameras all around the inside of my house. I don't like the idea of people being able to watch that who aren't me.
Right.
I would keep them on the outside and one on the entrance to kind of
manage that situation.
Yeah.
But so like I just shot somebody, right? And probably rightly so, not even just because of castle doctrine or whatever, but because my family was in danger and I had to make a decision, me or him, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if that was where the story ended, I'm fine.
Yeah, the issue
I'll go to
is
sleep that night. The issue is that person was breaking into our house because he thought nobody was home and he wanted to get up in the jewelry box, my wife's jewelry box, so that he could pay for food for his kids.
Mm.
And then I'd have problems sleeping at night because they didn't even mean us any physical harm. They were trying to get in and out and didn't think anybody was home, and they're not as evil or nefarious as I thought, and I shot them before they had a chance to run away because I wasn't going to take the chance. And
the issue is here, right? You could have knocked on my door at a reasonable hour and asked me for food, and I would have gone down to the fucking grocery store and helped you.
Yeah, but most people wouldn't do that, which is why you can't expect that.
But you can't rob someone.
Oh no, I agree. Like, they took the risk of death by deciding that robbing is the way they were going to go, no matter how bad their situation was, right? But I still wouldn't feel as justified as if they were a nefarious evil person. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, but the issue is anyone doing a crime is
when I would still struggle to sleep. Like, it would bother me that they were taking a risk for a good reason. They were doing a bad thing for a good reason rather than a bad thing for a bad reason.
The way I see it, the fact that you chose my home to steal from me for that shit, it wouldn't bother me that much. Because you could have went to Walmart to steal food.
Oh, yeah, there's way more intelligent ways to go about.
There are more intelligent ways to go about it. And if you know me, yeah, that hurt way less people. It's not on an individual level. And the risk is a lot higher in someone's house. You just did something stupid.
Like, obviously, that's the thought experiment, right? Like, it's a weird situation, right? But it shows that, like, why it would matter to you if you took the life, regardless of how justified you are. Because regardless of me adding depth to that person we shoot in this thought experiment, no matter how much depth I add, we're still justified the entire time in shooting them. The justification never disappears, and us being morally correct never disappears.
Yeah, I mean,
all it does is humanize the intruder.
And it depends on how he dies too. If I fucking shoot him in the face with a slug and it goes splat against a wall, I'm gonna fucking freak out.
Well, see, to me, like, if somebody had a good reason to do a bad thing, you know what I'm saying? Like the thing that would make it harder for me to sleep. If I'm gonna kill him, I'd want it to be as fast as painless as possible because I don't hate that person.
I don't hate the person either, but like
Yeah, but
the way I
if they're
see
like
it,
an evil doer who like just wants to fucking like rape my wife or something, then I'm not
it-
gonna
it's
feel
just
bad if I cause it.
it's just I have a fear of
Gore.
like you know when you go into New Vegas and you go in the vats and you fucking blow their head off or like
That bothers you.
get a limb, like if you use a high-powered round, which is more likely to kill, which you should use because
Yeah,
they're
like
breaking into your home.
Yep.
The fact that you could accidentally scar yourself from blowing their fucking brains everywhere.
Yeah, you
That's
you don't like the violence part of it.
I don't like
Clearly.
violence, and I don't like some of the like.
You don't like the altercation itself.
I mean, no one does.
Actually,
No reasonable person should.
well, if I could have the altercation without the consequences of death, I would probably like it a lot. That's kind of what video games are.
I'd rather do it in a video game. I'm just saying,
Oh,
like,
yeah,
no
right.
no reasonable person should want to kill someone
Oh
for
yeah, I don't want to kill
self-defense.
anybody. I'm just saying like why it
If they
why
break
the
into your
altercation I don't fear. But,
if they break into your home and you're like doing a citizen's arrest, that's a different story. But like, if they break into your home, you're most likely shooting the kill because there could be armed, there could be people behind them.
oh yeah, there might be
For all
more than
you-
one. You have no idea how many of them there are.
For all you know,
Terrifying.
they have some sort of dead man switch on them where they like fucking blow up.
Well, I don't see.
You don't know.
You have no idea, and I will give you that. You have no
I
idea.
mean, it's
but I
it's
also know-
unreasonable to.
yeah, I know what's likely and unlikely though.
I know it's unlikely and likely, but the issue is you have to make that decision. You have to kill them right away, instantly.
The reason I kill them right away is because every second they're alive and in my house and a threat, I could become compromised, and if I'm compromised, so are my wife and kids.
What if they have a gun, right? And you
Exactly.
give them that extra second, and they pull it out and they miss, and it goes through the floor and hits.
Oh yeah, there's that which is terrifying too. Like people look at these situations with cops or these home intruder incidents or like all this stuff like wielding firearms is like a nice controlled surgical procedure or something, when it's not.
It's not.
at
You could.
all.
The smallest round you could possibly take would go through your entire house, pretty much, unless it hits.
Basically, except a 22.
Yeah.
And so like that's what
You're
a
not
lot of that's what a lot of
22.
people yeah right and that's what a lot of people don't think about is like, so to add more onto the experiment, it's life or death. You are this intruder, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, after you shot this intruder who was standing in front of your open front door, that bullet just went through and shot the neighbor's daughter who was pulling in from a party
Yeah.
they were at or something.
That's why I got-
at night.
That's why I got the 12 gauge with Bucker Bird.
Yeah, right. Like that's a better situation, but you get what I'm saying. Like you can add more and more onto this fucking thought experiment that just make it worse, and you're still completely justified in shooting the intruder, and you still did
Mhm.
nothing wrong, and that's collateral that you didn't know would happen.
Yeah. It's
Right.
just. It could keep getting more fucked up.
Oh yeah, it can, and that's why it's a fun thought.
We could keep adding on to it until it turns into a fucking siege match.
Oh yeah, it could. It definitely could.
So you have these Capcom traps in the front, and if your daughter walks through,
Yeah. You got exploding garden gnomes out in the front yard in case an intruder runs out.
Claymore Roomba,
Yeah.
you're on the stairs so it can't go up.
The floor is lava in some terms. All right.
Yeah, all that shit, gore. A little bit of the personality shit. That'd
fuck you up a bit.
I just don't. The issue is you don't know how you're gonna react to it till you do it. You have like a general sense,
Mhm.
but some people see death and they instantly just go fucking nuts.
What do you mean? Oh, you mean like they're just not mentally stable enough for it?
Yes, like I don't have like names or anything, but one of my mom's friends or one of her friends of a friend, she saw death at a really young age, and she's like schizo now.
Too traumatic for her.
Yes, like she can't keep blinds up
Damn. Yeah.
or something like that, or it was like a friend.
Better.
I know I heard it, but I don't remember who from.
Yeah. No, I get that completely.
I just wish the situation wouldn't happen at all.
Same.
I'll turn on the electric fence at night.
Well, it's like having the possibility of it, though. I almost think is an important part of life because it you don't want to be so fearless every day that there's no room for growth or hardship. That's part of the problem in life. Is bad
And
things have to happen to mold us as people.
you don't want to entrust police officers because they could.
Oh yeah, like I don't know how anybody could ever trust somebody else to properly protect them.
Unless you literally live next to the police station.
Well, still, it
Even
can still
then.
happen. Yeah, like I fucking die inside when somebody tells me, we live in a really safe neighborhood. I got a cop that lives down the street. I'm like, okay.
The cop is down the street, off duty, and whoever broke into your house is already through raping your daughter, your wife, and you.
Exactly, and I'm just like, okay, so let's say you got that cop that lives down the street, and he's home, sleeping in bed with his wife, right?
Uh-huh.
You call 911, that doesn't call that cop down the street.
That calls the police station,
That
and
calls
then
the police station, which sends somebody who's a half hour away, who is
not even that. They have to figure out who you are, where you live, what's going on, and then they have to find out who's close to you, dispatch there.
Yeah. And they're not waking up that cop in the middle of the night to come save your ass.
Unless he somehow movies and sees that shit from across the street.
It ain't gonna happen.
No, that only happens in movies.
Right, and that's also not how police work. Like, they're not gonna call that person, wake them up in the middle of the night, and send them to go save your ass.
And you don't know
he's
that
off duty. It's not his job till the next morning when he finds out you and your wife and everybody fucking died and got raped.
And what if that police officer is super racist and you're not someone you like?
And just because that person's a cop does not mean they like you at all.
Yeah.
Yep. And
your dog shits on their porch every day, so.
Yeah, these are all things people don't think about, and they're stupid and naive because of it.
Oh well. Well, I think that's gonna call it though. I'm kind of getting.
Yeah, it's all good. That was a good conversation. Thanks for being on the podcast.
No problem. Too bad we spent 30 minutes talking about fucking Skyrim.
It's fine. I'm sure we're fine. Alright.
It was funny.
It was funny. Alright. Goodbye.
Thank you, kind sir.
Yeah, indeed.